happened to the... Time. Walang time. Time, is it? I'll use my iPhone. 2 o'clock, okay? 3 times. This session is called to order. May I request distinguished members of this august body to rise with the singing of the national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka pasisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong paghaw, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidinig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walang pagsikta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya dapat may mga api at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for the invocation to be delivered by Congressperson Ana Victoria Velasco Tuazon.
Let us humble ourselves in prayer and supplication. Almighty God, our Savior and Redeemer, we are broken and made whole in your suffering, grace, and mercy. We praise and thank you for calling us by name to do your work, for gathering us today to collectively discern your will, and for allowing us to bear witness to your glory with lives affirming your loving presence in our midst. Lord, we ask you to pardon our unworthiness and occasional failure to fully grasp and grapple with the complex realities that confront us. Please forgive our impatience, ambivalence, cynicism, and the times we allow ourselves to be muted by fear and despair. Thank you for seeing past our shortcomings, helping us pick up the pieces, and gently nudging us to do better each time. Heal our world and help us to truly listen. Guide us as we work towards being the change we want to see. Thank you for your steadfast faith in us, Lord. Thank you for the opportunity to be sanctified by our work and for the gifts of hope, courage, teamwork, and grit in wholeheartedly responding to the needs of our constituents and fellow Filipinos, particularly the marginalized and underserved. We lift up our struggles and suffering and pray with and for all those of us who are in need, the unwell, the sick, the dying, the desolate, the grieving, and all limited by recent catastrophes and confined by the prisons of our time. Please continue to bless us with the courage and wisdom we need to envision and put in motion the catalytic work that has to be done for our country and our planet. Help us to craft transformative and impactful legislation as we mobilize resources for our constituents and countrymen who need them most. Help us to do what is right, be a force for good, and create a culture of moral integrity in which people feel safe, seen, heard, and respected. May our gratitude be translated into wholehearted witnessing that draws our communities closer to you, seeing you in the work that we do. All this we ask with a child's faith. Amen.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to call the roll of members.
The Secretary General is directed to call the roll of members.
Roll call of members. Honorable Representatives, Abalos, Abante, Abunda, Acharon, Asidre, Ako, Adyong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Almonte, Alvarez Jose, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Angara, Aquino, Arbison, Arenas, Arrogancia, Asistio, Ataide, Omentado, Balindong, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Lin, Benitez, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondok, Bongalon, Bordado, Bosita, Briones, Brosas, Buhain, Bulut Begtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Kahayon Uy, Calderon, Calixto, Campos, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro Franz, Castro Jean, Celeste, Chan, Chato, Chua, Chungalaw, Ko Angelica Natasha, Ko Elizalde, Ko Pilar, Ko Juanco Jaime, Ko Juanco Mark, Colada, Coliantes, Corvera, Cruz Ambrosio, Cruz Ricardo, Cua, Quaresma, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Dayang Hirang, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor, Del Mar, De Los Santos, Dimaporo Muhammad Khalid, Dimaporo City Amina, Dionisio, Domingo, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian Paul, Ecleo, Emano, Enciso, Enverga, Escudero, Espares, Espina, Estrella, Yudela, Farinas, Fernandez, Ferrer Antonio, Ferrer Juliet Marie, Flores, Fortes, Frasco, Fresnedi, Puentebella, Galeyos, Garcia Albert, Garcia Dante, Garcia Jose Arturo, Garcia Maria Angela, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Guardiola, Garin, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Go Ed Christopher, Go Mark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gintu, Gulyas, Gutierrez, Hagidorn, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera, Horibata, Javier, Ko Olga Ara, Ko Ricardo, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon Daphne, Lagon Sani, Lara, Lazatin, Lee, Legarda, Libanan, Limcaychong, Loyola, Luistro, Lumayag, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Magsino, Malapitan, Mangawang, Maniquis, Manuel, Marañon, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariano Hernandez, Marinho, Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Mercado Revilla, Miguel, Momo, Morden, Nava, Nisay, Noel, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Dograles, Margarita, Nolasco, Uaminal, Olaso, Olivares, Ongchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Uwano Dizon, Padiernos, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho, Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Pleito, Primicias Agabas, Pumaren, Puno, Himbo, Rama, Recto, Regencia, Revilla Brian, Revilla Ramonjolo, Reyes, Rillo, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez Eulogio, Rodriguez Rufus, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Sali, Salimbangon, Salo, Salvame, Santos, Saulug, Silverio, Singson Richel, Singson Ronald, Singson Mihan, Solon, Soriano, Suwan, Suwansing Horacio, Suwansing Micaela Angela, Suarez, Talyado, Tamayo, Tambunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith Micah, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Tan Huatco, Tariela, Teodoro, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tieng, Tolentino, Tulfo Jocelyn, Tulfo Ralph Wendell, Tupas, Tutor, T, Umali, Unabia, Ungab, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso Tuazon, Vergara, Verzosa, Villa, Villafuerte Luis Raymond, Villafuerte Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Villago, Yap Christiantel, Yap Christopherson, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U Divina Grace, U Jazel Victoria, Yulo, Zamora Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Zubiri. Mr. Speaker, the roll call shows that 311 members responded to the call.
Thank you. With 311 members responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve Journal Number 18, dated 7th September 2022.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Journal as stated, 772. As stated, is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we proceed with the reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of the bills and resolutions as well as communications and committee reports. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the Secretary General is directed to read the titles of the bills, resolutions on the first reading as well as messages, communications, committee reports for referral for appropriate committee.
Reference of business. Bills on first reading. House Bill 4443, establishing the DTI office in the city of General Santos by Representative Acharon.
To the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill 4444, creating the General Santos City District Engineering Office by Representative Acharon.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 4445, exempting PWDs and senior citizens of the payment of travel tax by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Tourism.
House Bill 4446, exempting PWDs from the payment of parking fees in all commercial establishments and government buildings that charge parking fees by Representative Olivares.
To the Special Committee on Persons with Disabilities.
House Bill 4447, exempting senior citizens from the payment of parking fees in all commercial establishments and government buildings that charge parking fees by Representative Olivares.
To the Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill 4448, establishing 2 additional schools division offices in Bohol by Representative Mentado.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4449, regulating the manufacture, importation, sale, distribution, use, advertisement, promotion, and sponsorship of electronic nicotine delivery systems and electronic non-nicotine delivery system, heated tobacco products, and other imitation tobacco products by Representative Bondo.
To the Committee on Trade and Industry and Committee on Health.
House Bill 4450, establishing the Philippine Virology Science and Technology Institute by Representative Bondo.
To the Committee on Health and Committee on Science and Technology.
House Bill 4451, separating the Langin National High School, Ronda National High School, Poblacion Extension in Barangay Poblacion, Ronda, Cebu, from the Langin National High School, converting it into Ronda National High School by Representative Calderon.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4452, establishing the Foreign Service Retirement Program under the GSIS by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill 4453, instituting the Former Prisoners Employment Program by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill numbers 4454, 4455, establishing e-libraries and computer laboratories in 4th Estate Elementary School in Barangays BF Homes and San Antonio, Parañaque City by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4456, requiring all public telecommunications entities granted with congressional franchises to provide their subscribers with free access to government websites by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill 4457, institutionalizing a system of free formal education from elementary to tertiary levels for prisoners in all penal institutions by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture and Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4458, upholding social justice in the protection and promotion of the senior citizens' right to health by providing free immunization to all senior citizens by Representative Tambunting.
To the Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill 4459, granting benefits to medical workers, providing for the protection and advancing the welfare of medical frontliners by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4460, to enhance genuine Filipino culture, promote nationalism, and recognize writers and artists by supporting the Philippine comics industry through its mandated use in instructional materials in public schools by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4461, creating the position of the Municipal General Services Officer in Municipal Governments by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4462, strengthening the governance and management of the Philippine Science High School System by Representative Marquez.
To the Committee on Science and Technology.
House Bill 4463, integrating voter education in the junior and senior high school curricula by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4464, requiring every school to have at least one person certified in cardiopulmonary resuscitation and first aid by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4465, preserving and promoting the indigenous games of the Philippines by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Youth and Sports Development.
House Bill 4466, strengthening the role of parents, associations, and creating the National Parent Council by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4467, establishing an educational scholarship program for immediate dependents of OFWs, both sea-based and land-based, who died or suffered permanent disabilities while working abroad or overseas by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs.
House Bill 4468, incorporating the value of responsible fair usage and enjoyment of social media and education curricula nationwide by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture and Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4469, providing for the protection of the remittances of OFWs by Representatives Duterte, Yap Eric, Yap Edvic, and Soriano.
To the Committee on Overseas Workers' Affairs.
House Bill 4470, regulating the operation of motorcycles for hire by Representatives Duterte, Yap Eric, Yap Edvic, and Soriano.
To the Committee on Transportation.
House Bill 447, amending Presidential Decree Number 442, increasing the daily minimum wage of the private sector workers by Representative Zubiri.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 4472, mandating the allocation of an area for information and communication technology infrastructure and facility subdivisions and housing development projects by Representative D. Faustino.
To the Committee on Housing and Urban Development.
House Bill 4473, requiring all government and private hospitals, medical centers, clinics, infirmaries, and periculture centers to give free medical and dental service to children, indigent parents, and guardians by Representative Manikis.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4474, establishing Apex Hospital in every region of the country by Representative Manikis.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4475, requiring the mandatory registration of all subscriber identity module cards by Representative Romero.
To the Committee on Information and Communication Technology.
House Bill 4476, creating the Philippine Farmers Bank by Representative Romero.
Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
House Bill 4477, establishing greater responsibility and accountability from the private employment agencies by Representative Hernandez.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 4478, creating a District Representative People's Advisory Council in every district by Representative Hernandez.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4479, expanding the prohibited acts of discrimination against women on account of sex by Representative Hernandez.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 4480, establishing a comprehensive and responsive civil registration system by Representative Dionisio.
To the Committee on Population and Family Relations.
House Bill 4481, creating 2 additional branches of the Regional Trial Court and 2 additional branches of the Municipal Trial Court in cities in the 11th Judicial Region to be stationed in the city of Maiti, Davao Oriental by Representative Almario.
To the Committee on Justice.
House Bill 4482, strengthening the field offices of the Commission on Elections by upgrading and creating certain positions by Representative Mariano Hernandez.
To the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms.
House Bill 4483, providing for a mandatory immunization program, repealing the Mandatory Infants and Children Health Immunization Act of 2011 by Representative Mariano Hernandez.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4484, providing for the conversion of Mayon Avenue, F. Rodriguez Avenue, and Rodriguez Montalban Rizal into a national road by Representative Nograles Juan Fidel Felipe.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 4485, providing for the conversion of certain roads in the 1st District of South Cotabato from the provincial roads into national roads by Representative Lumayag.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 4486, transferring the allocation of the DPWH South Cotabato 1st District Engineering Office from Lagao General Santos City to 2P South Cotabato by Representative Lumayag.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 4487, creating a district office of the TESDA in the 1st Legislative District of South Cotabato to be established in Polomolok, South Cotabato by Representative Lumayag.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4488, appropriating funds for the operations of the Government of the Republic of the Philippines from January 1 to December 31, 2023 by Representative Co. Elizalde, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Delipe Kimbo, and other members.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill 4489, amending Section 22 of the Magna Carta for public school teachers, thereby providing free annual comprehensive physical checkup for public school teachers by Representatives Revilla Ramonjolo, Mercado Revilla, and Revilla Brian.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4490, providing for the Magna Carta for public disaster risk reduction and management workers by Representatives Revilla Ramonjolo, Mercado Revilla, and Revilla Brian.
To the Committee on Disaster Resilience.
House Bill 4491, establishing the public schools of the future in technology by Representatives Revilla Ramonjolo, Mercado Revilla, and Revilla Brian.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4492, establishing the dangerous drugs courts, granting them exclusive original jurisdiction over dangerous drugs by Representative Gomez.
To the Committee on Justice.
House Bill 4493, requiring the installation of automated external defibrillators in high-traffic cardiac emergency-prone public and private buildings by Representative Gomez.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4494, providing for the publication of laws in the print or online version of the official gazette and of a newspaper of general circulation by Representative Maceda.
To the Committee on the Revision of Laws.
House Bill 4495 to strengthen, modernize, and professionalize the agricultural service of the LGUs by Representative Romero.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4497, renaming the 1st District of Laguna into the lone legislative district of the City of San Pedro by Representative Matibag.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4498, increasing the number of the councilors of the City of San Pedro Laguna from 10 to 12 by Representative Matibag.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4499, mandating the transition of the government to electronic governance in digital age by Representative Teves Arnolfo.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill 4500, mandating the institutionalization of basic ROTC in grades 11 and 12 in all educational institutions.
To the Committee on Basic Education, Culture, and Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4501, further promoting entrepreneurship by strengthening, empowering, and enhancing the financing programs for micro, small, and medium enterprises by Representative Primicias Agabas.
To the Committee on Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprise Development.
House Bill 4502, institutionalizing the implementation of the government internship program by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation.
House Bill 450, granting hazard pay to support workers in public hospitals during the public health emergency as declared in the Presidential Proclamation number 1021 series of 2020 by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill number 4504, granting hazard pay to workers in critical industries during a state of calamity or emergency or public health emergency by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 4505, requiring the mandatory labeling of household products containing hazardous substances by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4506, integrating hospice and palliative care into the Philippine health care system by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4507, creating a mandatory position for a human resource management officer in LGUs by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4508, institutionalizing human rights as a separate and specialized subject in both basic and higher education by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Basic Education, Culture, and Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4509, establishing reforms in the implementation of the Magna Carta of Public Health Workers by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4510, providing for the improvement of maternal and childbirth services by establishing birthing centers and training traditional birth attendants by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4511, to improve the quality of beaches and coastal recreation water by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Ecology.
House Bill 4512, establishing multi-species marine hatcheries in the city of Zamboanga by Representative Dalipe.
To the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources.
House Bill 4513, prohibiting game fixing and providing penalties for violations thereof by Representative D. Faustina Michael.
To the Committee on Youth and Sports Development.
House Bill 4514, establishing libingan ng mga bayani annexes in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao by Representative Acharon.
To the Committee on National Defense and Security.
House Bill numbers 4515, 4516, 4517, and 4518, separating certain national high school extensions in certain municipalities of Zamboanga del Sur, converting them into independent national high schools by Representative U. Jazel Victoria.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4519, creating the Department of Disaster Resilience by Representative Primicias Agabas.
To the Committee on Government Reorganization and Committee on Disaster Resilience.
House Bill 4520, strengthening the Legal Education Board by Representative Rodriguez Rufus.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4521, promoting access to quality legal education by providing for free tuition and other school fees in state universities and colleges by Representative Rodriguez Rufus.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4522, prohibiting online gambling, penalizing the placing of wagers or bets through the internet or any form of online gambling activities by Representative Villanueva.
To the Committee on Games and Amusement.
House Bill 4523, establishing a mechanism to enable poor Filipino families to have at least one college graduate by institutionalizing the expanded student grants in aid program for poverty alleviation by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4524, converting the Villasis-Asingan Provincial Road, Pangasinan into a national road by Representative Primicias Agabas.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 4525, converting the satellite campuses of the Bukidnon State University located in certain municipalities in Bukidnon and in certain municipalities of Northern Mindanao in 2 regular campuses of the Bukidnon State University by Representative Zubiri.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4526, establishing the NTC General Santos Satellite Office in the Lone District of the City of General Santos by Representative Acharon.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill 4527, declaring June 15 of every year a special non-working holiday in the City of General Santos in commemoration of its charter anniversary by Representative Acharon.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4528, amending Section 1 of the Charter of the PCSO by Representative Teves Arnolfo.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
House Bill 4529, institutionalizing the preferential treatment in the procurement of materials and supplies produced, made, and manufactured in the Philippines by 100% Filipino-owned companies by Representative Teves Arnolfo.
To the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill number 4530, establishing Tanay National Science High School in Tanay, Rizal by Representative Tanhuatco.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4531, providing for omnibus amendments to the revised charter of the City of Baguio by Representative Go Mark.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4532, declaring January 16 of every year a special non-working holiday in the City of Navotas in commemoration of its founding anniversary by Representative Tiangco.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4533, creating a Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources by Representative Colada.
To the Committee on Government Reorganization, Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources.
House Bill 4534, amending the PAGCOR Charter by Representative Colada.
To the Committee on Games and Amusement.
House Bill 4535, establishing the National Framework for Water Resource Management and creating the Department of Water Resources and the Water Regulatory Commission by Representative Colada.
To the Committee on Government Reorganization and Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 4536, creating the Department of Water Resources by Representative Konghun.
To the Committee on Government Reorganization, Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 4537, requiring the registration of SIM cards by Representative Plato.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill 4538, protecting senior citizens from abuse and violence by Representative Plato.
To the Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill 4539, providing for the revitalization and advancement of original Filipino music by Representative Vargas.
To the Special Committee on Creative Industry and Performing Arts.
House Bill 4540, protecting the rights and welfare of Filipino artists by Representative Vargas.
To the Special Committee on Creative Industry and Performing Arts.
House Bill 4541, providing for the establishment of culture, arts, tourism, and heritage councils in every province of the country.
To
by
the
Representative
Committee,
Vargas.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4542, amending Section 29 of the Voters Registration Act of 1996 by Representatives Mercado Revilla, Revilla Bryan, and Revilla Ramonjolo.
To the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms.
House Bill 4543, increasing and expanding the benefits granted to senior citizens by Representative Abante.
To the Committee on Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill 4544, creating the Mindanao Power Corporation by Representatives Dagook and De Jesus.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization and Committee on Energy.
House Bill 4545, an act protecting the rights of consumers in the purchase of motorcycles, including its parts and accessories and helmets by Representative Bosita.
To the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill 4546, mandating the establishment of nursing homes for the abandoned, neglected, unattached, or homeless senior citizens by Representative Dionisio.
To the Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill 4547, increasing the bed capacity of PGH from 1,500 beds to 2,200 beds by Representative Dionisio.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 4548, providing monthly pension to indigent PWDs by Representative Dionisio.
To the Special Committee on Persons with Disabilities.
House Bill 4549, establishing a registry of professionals and skilled workers in every barangay by Representative Dionisio.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 4550, providing for a solar home financing system for informal settler families and social housing beneficiaries by Representative Dionisio.
To the Committee on Housing and Urban Development.
House Bill 4551, declaring December 14 of every year as Feast Day of Holy Cross, a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Santa Cruz by Representative Tariela.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4552, declaring April 1st of every year as Araw ng Santa Cruz, a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Santa Cruz by Representative Tariela.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 4553, establishing the Visayas State University College of Medicine by Representative Kari.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 4554, providing for income support program for fisher folks whose livelihood are negatively affected during periods of closed seasons for fishing as declared by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, as well as during calamities and lean or typhoon seasons by Representative Tan Keith Micah.
To the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources.
House Bill 4555, establishing the no call, no text, and no email registration system by Representative Tan Keith Micah.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill 4556, establishing the incentivized solid waste redemption and recovery systems by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Ecology.
House Bill 4557, providing protection and incentives for freelance workers by Representative Vargas.
Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 4558, creating the Pambihirang Manggagawa program to institutionalize the advanced studies development of exceptional employees from the government and the private sector by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation and Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 4559, establishing digital public libraries and reading centers by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4560, promoting the establishment of public math and science high schools in previously underserved areas by Representative Vargas.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 4561, protecting the rights of refugees and stateless persons, establishing the Refugees and Stateless Persons Protection Board by Representative Vargas.
The Committee on Justice.
House Bill 4562, ensuring the availability, adequacy, accessibility, and safety of food to every Filipino by Representative Vargas.
The Special Committee on Food Security.
House Bill 4563, instituting the Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers by Representatives Revilla Monjolo, Mercado Revilla, and Revilla Bryan.
To the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs.
Resolutions. House Resolution 338, mandating ban on the usage of single-use plastics in all retail and service establishments within the premises of House of Representatives by Representative Villanueva.
Committee on Ecology.
House Resolution 339, commending and congratulating Ernest John E.J. Obiana for winning the gold medal in the 2022 Brussels Diamond League Men's Pole Vault Competition by Representative Mariano Hernandez.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 340, congratulating and commending Police Lieutenant Colonel Salman M. Saad for winning the silver and bronze medals in the World Police and Fire Games 2022 by Representative de Maporo City, Amina.
The Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Resolution 341, congratulating and commending Filipino pole vaulter Ernest John E.J. Uy Obiana for winning the men's pole vault event in the Alliance Memorial Van Damme program at the Wanda Diamond League held in Brussels, Belgium by Representative Pumaren.
The Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 342, directing the Committee on Basic Education to conduct an inquiry on the implementation of RA number 10627, requiring all elementary and secondary schools to adopt policies to prevent and address the acts of bullying in their institutions by Representative Kahayon Uy.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 343, expressing the sense of the House to initiate and convene the legislatures comprising the growth areas of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East Asian Growth Area for the first BIMP-IAGA Interparliamentary Forum by Representative Sakaluran.
To the Special Committee on ASEAN Growth Area.
House Resolution 344, urging the Committee on Labor and Employment to conduct an investigation on the recent spate of trade union rights violations against workers and trade unionists in Laguna by Representatives Brosas, Manuel, and Castro Franz.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 345, honoring and commending the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipinos of 2022 for their dedication and professionalism in the pursuit of excellent public service by Representatives Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Dalipe, Libanan, Marcos, Romualdez Yada Marie, and Asidre.
The Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 346, conveying the deepest condolences of the members of the House of Representatives of the Congress of the Philippines to His Majesty King Charles III, the royal family, and the people of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and the Northern Ireland on the demise of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II by Representatives Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Dalipe, Libanan, Marcos, Romualdez Yada Marie, and Asidre.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 347, expressing profound sympathies and sincerest condolences of the House to the family to the people of United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and to the people of the Commonwealth of Nations on the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II by Representative Gomez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 349, honoring the life and legacy of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and other Commonwealth realms by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 350, expressing the profound condolences and deepest sympathies of the House and the Republic of the Philippines over the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 351, congratulating and commending the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipinos of 2022 for their dedication and professionalism in the pursuit of excellent public service by Representative Macapagal Arroyo.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee reports. Report numbers 28, 31, and 32 submitted by the Committee on Higher and Technical Education on House Bill numbers 1456, 4635, and 4636 respectively. Committee report number 29 submitted by the Committee on Higher and Technical Education on House Resolution number 348. Committee report number 30 submitted by the Committee on Information and Communications Technology on House Bill number 14.
The aforementioned committee reports are referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize the guests of the gallery, the guest of the Honorable Maria Alana Samantha Santos, Ivy Marcia Balitok Dalumpines, Board Member of 3rd District of Cotabato, and Janine Dalumpines.
Okay, the visitors and guests of Congresswoman Maria Alana Santos, Board Member Dalumpines, and Ivy Dalumpines, and the other one? I'm sorry?
Janine Dalumpines, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, today being a Monday and pursuant to our rules, I move that we open the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The Chair declares privilege hour.
Mr.
Majority
Speaker,
Leader.
I now move that the gentleman from the 3rd District of Negros Oriental, the Honorable Arnolfo Arnie A. Teves Jr., be recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
Representative Arnolfo Arnie A. Teves. You
Yes,
are
sir.
recognized. Yes, the gentleman, Congressman Teves, you're recognized, sir. Please
Thank
proceed.
you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Andito na naman ako ngayon. Meron lang ako mga konting tanong. Ang tanong ko ngayon, katulad to nung tinanong ko nung secretary pa si Mark Villar. Anong parameters ng distribution ng funds ng gobyerno? What am I trying to drive at? How do we determine how much each congressman gets in his NEP? Ang absorptive capacity ba isang basihan? Nung sa panahon kasi ni Mark Villar, sabi niya, hindi yun malaking basihan. Nung last hearing ng Committee on Appropriations, basihan daw yung absorptive capacity. Hindi sa nagbubuhat ako ng bangko, parati akong top 5. Ilang beses akong number 1 in absorptive capacity. Ilang taon na dati natatanggap ko parating 2 billion, 2.2 billion. But there was one time na walan pa ako ng 1.6 or 1.3 billion. Ngayon, ang NEP ko nasa 1.5 billion lang. Bakit ganon? But hindi ako nagsasalita para sa sarili ko. Marami pang iba dyan na kasing galing din ang distrito ko, malamang maliit din natatanggap. Bakit ko to tinatanong? Ang pera kasi pag nilagay sa NEP at nanatiling pera lang, hindi mararanasan at it will not be felt by the taong bayan hanggang hindi siya naging proyekto. Kung yung binigyan na distrito maliit yung absorptive capacity, hindi niya magagamit yung pera. Para sa akin, bigyan natin ng pansin yung matataas yung absorptive capacity at yun yung paglaanan natin ng maraming pondo para mas maraming pondo ang maging konkretong proyekto at mapakinabangan ng ating taong bayan. Not to mention, meron akong mga nababalitaan na meron palang mga proyektong hindi ganon kaganda ang pagkagawa. Hindi ko pa nakukuha kung saan to, kanino to. Wala akong gusto matamaan, wala akong gusto tirahin, gusto ko kaibigan lahat. Sa akin lang, katotohanan lang, na ayusin naman natin ito. Meron pa akong isang tanong, bakit kailangan pa hintayin yung BICAM para idagdag yung pondo? Pwede naman sa NEP pa lang ilagay na yung karapat-dapat na pondo ng mga distrito, di ba? Bakit naglalaan pa tayo ng sobra, kumbaga parang lump sum, na doon na pinag-uusapan sa BICAM? Lagay na natin sa NEP. At suggestion ko lang, hindi dahil mataas yung absorptive capacity ko, gawin nating isang priority na basihan ang absorptive capacity ng isang distrito dahil ang problema ng ating gobyerno is spending. Money not spent is useless. Kahit naglagay ka pa ng 10 bilyon sa isang distrito, kung hindi ito naging proyekto, hindi siya mararanasan at makikinabangan ng taong bayan. Again, I am asking whoever is concerned, how do we distribute funds among legislative districts? Dagdag ko na lang doon, sana kami lahat na congressman mabigyan ng kopya kung magkano yung natatanggap ng bawat isa sa amin para malaman namin kung equitable ba ang distribution o hindi. Yun lang, Mr. Speaker, maraming salamat at sana mapaglaanan ito ng pansin bago pa lang matapos itong ating budget season. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody.
Maraming salamat, Congressman Teves. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Teves to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Said speech of Congressman Teves is hereby, as stated, referred. Majority Leader.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Representative Ria Vergara from the 3rd District of Nueva Ecija be recognized to avail of the privilege R.
Congresswoman Rosana Ria V. Vergara of the 3rd District of Nueva Ecija is hereby recognized.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Speaker, sa aking mga kapwa mambabatas at sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan. Nagpapasalamat po ako sa pagkakataong maiparating ang aking ilang agam-agam tungkol sa isang kritikal na pahayag kamakailan ni Senior Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban ng Department of Agriculture. Ayon sa isang panayam kay Senior Yusek Panganiban tungkol sa oversupply ng bawang at repolyo, hindi raw isinaalang-alang ng ating mga magsasaka ang merkado kapag sila ay nagtatanim. Lubos po na nababahala ang kinatawan na ito sa nasabing pahayag. Bagamat maiksi, seryoso po ang mga implikasyon nito. Sa anumang banda ko tignan ay hindi ito naging katanggap-tanggap. Small farm holders or farmers tilling less than 5 hectares face a myriad of challenges, such as poor infrastructure, high cost of inputs, limited access to credit, and the most important constraint, gaining access to consistent and profitable markets for their produce. These disadvantaged farmers struggle to get their products to the final consumer. This is due to lack of post-harvest processing facilities, storage facilities, and the much-needed market networks, which leave them dependent on the middleman to purchase their produce. What makes their situation worse is the irony that these middlemen charge a disproportionately large share of the profit margin at the expense of the poor farmers. In 2019, Dr. Eleazar, who then headed the Department of Agriculture's Bureau of Agricultural Research, or BAR, said, "Farming is the weakest link in our economy." He said, "Farmers and fisherfolk who feed the nation with back-breaking toil, all sweat and blood, are among the poorest and most hungry in the society." Thus, it is quite alarming when no less than the designated acting Secretary of Agriculture says that the farmers are to be blamed for the inexistent oversupply of garlic and cabbage. The hard-working farmers who labor 10 to 12 hours a day under the heat of the sun, who earn the least but work the hardest to put food on our plates, to blame them for government's inability to address the structural inequalities of our agricultural sector is unfair, unjust, and uncalled for. Bukod pa rito, ang nasabing pahayag ay tila taliwas sa koordinasyon na kailangan para sa agricultural sector na inilatag ng ating mahal na Pangulong Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. Sa kanyang unang State of the Nation address, ayon sa ating mahal na Pangulo, sinabi po niya, may mga bahagi ng value chain na nasa ngayon ay kanya-kanya ang operasyon. Pagtibayin natin ang koordinasyon ng iba't ibang bahagi nito. Sa nasabing koordinasyon na ito, dapat nangunguna ang Department of Agriculture at ang mga opisyal nito. According to the DA's mandate, and I quote, "The DA is a government agency responsible for the promotion of agricultural development by providing the policy framework, public investments, and support services needed for domestic and export-oriented business enterprises." Sa madaling salita po, Mr. Speaker, ang DA, lalo na ang mga matataas na opisyal, sila ay dapat kaisa ng Pangulo at ang ating DA Secretary ang inaasahan na unang magtaguyod sa kapakanan ng sektor na ito, lalo na ng mga magsasaka. Sa gitna ng krisis, hindi ito ang unang bibitaw, maghuhugas kamay at isisisi ang problema sa mga magsasaka na ginampanan lamang ang kinalang tungkulin. As one of the earliest agencies established in our country, the Department of Agriculture has had the organizational structure, manpower, institutional knowledge, network, and more importantly, the duty to effectively consolidate efforts of all stakeholders in agriculture. Kaya naman, hindi katanggap-tanggap ang naging pahayag ni Senior Yusek Panganiban dahil parang ipinapasa nito ang responsibilidad na maglatag at mapatupad ng malinaw na plano na gagabay sa ating mga magsasaka at iba pang stakeholders. Moreover, just a week before news were reported about the oversupply of garlic in Batanes and the consequent statements of Senior Yusek Panganiban, other DA officials actually briefed the House of Committee on Agriculture and Food under Chairman Mark Enverga about the outlook of our country's supply and demand for garlic. Reportedly, for this year, the shortage in garlic will reach 63,900 metric tons. It was also reported that the country's garlic supply relies heavily on importation and that the local production is insufficient. To discuss Yusek Panganiban's statement without considering the Department of Agriculture's report to Congress is to miss the point entirely. If Senior Yusek Panganiban is sincere in his efforts to address the problems in our agricultural sector, especially after the recent Sugar Order Number 4 incident, he should have first reviewed, assessed, and compared with the DA department in charge of garlic. His statement is a total contradiction of the DA's stand. What truly are his intentions making these statements? Mr. Speaker, nakakalito at parang hindi tugma ang mga pahayag ng mga opisyal ng DA. Tila nagbabadya rin ito ng kakulangan ng koordinasyon mismo sa loob ng kagawaran ng agrikultura. Muli, ito ay nakakabahala at hindi rin naaayon sa kritikal na koordinasyong iniatas ng ating mahal na Pangulo at DA Secretary. With all the difficulties our country faces, it is incumbent upon all of us to contribute to the solution. Our President and Deputy and Department of Agriculture Secretary has provided us the strategy and the direction. It is high time for all of us, especially all the officials in the DA, to do our respective tasks and to do it well. Sa ating masisipag, walang pagod at magigiting na mga magsasaka, humihingi po ako ng paumanhin para sa mga limitado at short-sighted na pahayag na sinabi ni DA Senior Yusek Panginiban. Moreover, I pledge to file a resolution in order for the House of Representatives to comprehensively probe the basis of the statements he said, which run contrary to the facts reported by the DA through Assistant Director Gabertan during our August 30, 2022 meeting at the House Committee on Agriculture and Food. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker, mga kasamahan ko sa Kongreso at sa ating mga kababayan, naway magsilbing hudyat rin ito ng mga kinakailangang pagbabago para sa ating bansa. Mabuhay po ang sektor ng agrikultura, mabuhay ang mga magsasakang Pilipino, mabuhay po tayong lahat. Magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon, Congresswoman Dirgaras. Thank you. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Arlene Brosas of the party list Gabriela for her interpellation.
The Congressperson from Party List Gabriela, Congresswoman Arlene Brosas, you are recognized. Please
Thank
proceed.
you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, will my good friend from the District of Nueva Ecija, Honorable Representative Ria Vergara, yield to a few questions, clarifications lang po.
Will the gentlelady yield to some questions from the Party List Gabriela?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, with pleasure.
Please proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, narinig ko po yung pahayag ng ating butihing representante mula sa Nueva Ecija. At natutuwa po ako sa pagpaliwanag niya ng mandato ng Department of Agriculture. Now, isa po sa mga pinapatungkulan ay yung usapin ng ito po ay yung kung paano dinagsa ng importasyon ng bawang ang ating bansa at ang primary na umaangal ay ang mga magsasaka mismo natin na nagtatanim ng bawang. Sa kasalukuyan po ba, ilan yung gaano tayo ka-import dependent dito, no? Pagdating po sa bawang. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, kung ilang porsyento o kahit po halimbawa ilan ang imported, ilan ang local sa ngayon?
Mr. Speaker, ayon sa report ng Department of Agriculture noong August 30, halos 95% or 98% ng bawang na dumadating sa ating bansa ay imported na. At sa report po nila, during the first quarter lang po tayo may harvest. For the next 9 months hanggang matapos ang taon, wala na. Kaya po ako ay nagulat nung lumabas itong statement galing kay Yusek Panganiban na may oversupply at ang mga magsasaka pa ang dahilan ng oversupply. So to the answer, Mr. Speaker, of our good friend Kong Brosas, almost 95 to 98% of the garlic in our country is imported.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, siyam. Ibig sabihin po niyan, siyam sa 10 bawang imported sa atin. Paano nakatulong ang ating Department of Agriculture over the years sa ating mga producers ng bawang? Kasi hindi lang naman po promotion ang kanilang trabaho, kundi kailangan po ng subsidyo, kailangan po ng lahat ng support services para matulungan na hindi bumagsak yung produksyon ng bawang natin. And in fact, because noong 1995, sa pagpasok po ng World Trade Organization, I believe mas malaki ang napoproduce natin at yung bawang ay hindi po siyam sa bawat 10 ay imported, kundi local. Sa World Trade noong 1995 po, sa World Trade Organization, minimal lang po ang importasyon natin. Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. My point is, kung 3.7% lang ng total supply ang ating ini-import, ibig sabihin, malakas at competitive yung ating mga lokal na magsasaka para sa bawang. Kaya po ito, ngayon, indikasyon po ito ng krisis na dinulot nung pagpasok din natin sa World Trade Organization kung saan naging import dependent tayo para sa garlic. Mr. Speaker, atin pong Honorable Representative. Ngayon po, kung ganyan, hindi ba dapat ang ipaliwanag sa atin ng Department of Agriculture ay paano i-turn para sa mga lokal na producers, para sa gain ng mga lokal na producers, ang sitwasyon ngayon ng ating mga magsasaka. Meron po bang pinroduce ang ating Department of Agriculture? Nandun naman po kayo sa hearing na parang roadmap kung paano ito babaguhin na maging mas kapakipakinabang sa mga magsasaka natin at mga local producers talaga natin itong sitwasyon na ito.
Mr. Speaker, ayon kay Assistant Director Gabertan, ang garlic po or ang bawang ay isang high value crop na ngayon ay gagawan po nila ng programa, paglalaan ng pondo. Ang kagandahan po, ang #1 producer ng garlic sa ating bansa ay nasa Ilocos. Ito po ay kung saan ang ating mahal na Pangulo ay galing, kaya mas talagang pagtitibayin pa. Sabi po ni Assistant Director Gabertan, they acknowledge that this is one agriculture crop that has been neglected, and in this administration, this will be given the top priority and the priority it needs. That way we can go back to become an export-producing country of garlic. Dahil hindi po makakaila, ang garlic na galing sa Pilipinas, iba po ang lasa, iba po ang mas masarap siya, it's more flavorful, it has a distinct taste, it might be smaller, but the size makes up for the distinct taste. In fact, they have what they call the black garlic, which is very hard to find. And these are areas that the DA will explore, and as a legislator and a member of the Committee on Agriculture will fully support and fund.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, meron bang specific na sinabi on subsidy or support services? For example po, sa hinihiling ng mga magsasaka natin na 15,000 peso subsidy, may binanggit po ba na maibibigay ang Department of Agriculture dito?
Mr. Speaker, dahil yun po ay unang meeting pa lamang tungkol sa pagre-report ng Department of Agriculture tungkol sa estado ng basic commodities tulad ng garlic, onions, eggs, and potatoes. Wala pa po silang binibigay na plano, subalit sa susunod na meeting, doon po nila ilalahad yung mga gagawin nilang plano para sa commodities na po na ito.
Mr. Speaker, wala na nga silang itinutulong sa inputs. Pati sa marketing, zero. Tapos ngayon, ang lakas pa nila manisi ng magsasaka. So, Mr. Speaker, dapat po, no, sana tulungan natin itong mga magsasaka natin, hindi sila mapabayaan, hindi sila malugi over sa imported. Kung lumalabas na 325 pesos kada kilo ang bawang, tapos 325 pesos, sa lokal, 100 pesos nabibili sa imported, talaga namang ang pipiliin imported. Kawawa naman, baka ma-wipe out yung ating mga magsasaka, Mr. Speaker. Kaya, actually, gusto ko pong sabihin at i-reiterate na ang demand ng ating mga magsasaka ay 15,000 production subsidy for the government to intervene pag-purchase ng mga agricultural products from farms and distributing this to the poor communities at lower prices kesa sa iba pa na mga nag-o-offer ng mas mataas na presyo dito, Mr. Speaker. At maraming salamat po sa ating butihing Honorable Representative Ria Vergara para po sa pagsagot sa ilan sa aking mga katanungan. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Representative Ria.
You're welcome, Congressman Brosas. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to invite the Honorable Cong Brosas to please join us in the Committee on Agriculture when the issues she raised will be tackled. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Representative Vergara and the interpellation by Rep. Brosas to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The speech of Congressperson Vergara duly referred, the speech also the interpellations duly referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we terminate the privilege R.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Privilege R is hereby terminated. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend the session for a few minutes.
Session suspended. tayo. just in case. Of course, always. Pakibigay lang. Sam. Ayun. Bagong mayor natin. Sam. Talaga ako. Ano nga ba? Welcome po.
Balik na sir, wait na sir kasi suspended. Suspended sir. Sige.
Ralph?
Ready, sir. Ready, ma'am. One more. Payaw po.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, boss.
Thank you for everything.
Ada. Laki.
Member yan sa QCP yung workers. Okay, sir. Sir, yes. Yes. Program partners. Yes. Tapos may procedure. Compo, request na lang. Yes.
Tapos the photo. The photo? There also. Tapos ko na lang siya. The awardees. Very good. Okay. Majority Leader. Session resumed.
Mr. Speaker, may we acknowledge our guest of the House of Representatives, Metrobank Foundation officers and staff, President Aniceto M. Sobrepeña, Executive Vice President, Philip D. Executive Director, Nicanor L. Torres Jr., Head of Corporate Communication Unit, Christopher Bugaon, Program Officer, Laarni Luna, OIC, Crystal T. Todcor, Excellence Award Unit, Program Officer, Ernest R. Macapagal, Program Partners, Attorney Al Miguel Iogardo, Mr. Ryan Michael de la Cruz, and Mr. Claro Lorenzo Baarde.
We acknowledge the presence of the Metrobank Foundation officers and staff and program partners. Welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we are pleased to have with us today in the gallery this afternoon the awardees of the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipinos for 2022, namely Teacher Junmerth C. Horta, Teacher Christine Joy Dr. Aguila, Professor Leonila F. Dance, Professor Mark Nolan P. Confessor, Police Executive Master Sergeant Rogelio A. Rodriguez Jr., Police Captain Rosalino E. Palanqui, Police Colonel Lambert A. Suerte, Technical Sergeant Joel L. Tuganan, Colonel Maria Victoria P. Juan, Colonel Stephen L. Cabanlet,
To the awardees of the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipinos of 2022, namely Teacher Junmer C. Horta, Teacher Christine Joy Dr. Aguila, PhD, Professor Leonila F. Dans, MD, MSSC, Professor Mark Nolan P. Confessor, PhD, Police Executive Master Sergeant Rogelio A. Rodriguez Jr., Police Captain Rosalino E. Panlaki, Police Colonel Lambert A. Suerte, Technical Sergeant Joel L. Tuganan, Colonel Maria Victoria P. Juan, and Colonel Stephen L. Cabanlet. We welcome all of you to the House of Representatives and thank you for your service to our country. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I move for consideration of House Resolution number 345, and for this purpose, may we direct the Secretary General to read the title of the resolution.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Resolution number 345.
House Resolution number 342, resolution honoring and commending the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipinos of 2022 for their dedication and professionalism in the pursuit of excellent public service by Representatives Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Dalipe, Libanan, Marcos, Romualdez Sieda Marie, and Asidre.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for clarification, the resolution is House Resolution number 345. Mr. Speaker, I move for adoption of House Resolution number 345 in consolidation with House Resolution numbers 308, 309, and 351, authored by Representative Romulo and Senior Deputy Speaker Macapagal Arroyo.
There is a motion to adopt House Resolution number 345 in consolidation with House Resolutions numbers 308, 309, and 351. As many are in favor, say aye. As many are against, say nay. The ayes have it. House Resolution number 345 in consolidation with House Resolutions 308, 309, and 351 is adopted. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes for the awarding of the resolution that we have just adopted to the awardees of the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipinos of 2022.
May we request the awardees of the Metrobank Foundation Outstanding Filipinos for 2022 to proceed to the front of our session hall. The session is suspended.
Okay. Ano ibibigay ko to kay Coach? Alin pa kayong ano? Pati medyo. Kalaban. Dating mayor po, 9 years. Ano naman kayo? Balita ko yung dalawa po. Hindi pa ako kasali doon.
Yun.
Yeah.
Yes. Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to consider House Resolution 346 and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the House Resolution.
House Resolution number 346, resolution conveying the deepest condolences of the members of the House of Representatives of the Congress of the Philippines to His Majesty King Charles III, the royal family, and the people of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on the demise of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Resolution number 346 in consolidation with House Resolution numbers 347, 349, and 350. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion. As many in favor, say aye. Aye. As many in favor, against, say nay. The ayes have it. House Resolution number 346 in consolidation with House Resolutions 347, 349, and 350 is hereby adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend session for a few minutes.
Session is suspended.
Saan na ba tayo? Depende sa ano. Yung sapatos ko ba?
Mamaya po may mga...
Ito? Yan, basahin yung mga...
Majority leader naman.
Pero, recognize niya.
Welcome the guest.
Javier? Majority. Session resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize the guests in the gallery. They are the guests of the Honorable Lolita Karen Tanyada Javier from the 2nd District of Leyte. They are from the local government of Julieta, Leyte, namely Mr. German Macaso, the Vice Mayor of the Municipality of Julieta, Leyte, Ms. Geraldine Daya, SB Member, Mr. Ervin D., SB Member, Mr. Jude Adria Romualdez, SB Member, Ms. Rosila Advincula, SB Member, Mr. Alan Novales, SB Member, Mr. Rodrigo Macaso, SB Member, and Mr. Mark Joy Macaso, SB Member, Mr. Speaker.
To the guests of Honorable Lolita Karen Tanyada Javier of the local government of Jolita, Municipality of Jolita, Leyte, welcome to the August Chambers of the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we resume consideration of House Bill number 4122 under Committee Report number 25, and may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of House Bill number 4122.
Secretary General.
House Bill number 4122, an act imposing value-added tax on digital transactions in the Philippines, amending for the purpose sections 105, 108, 109, 110, 113, 114, and 236, and adding a new section 105-A of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the parliamentary status of House Bill number 4122 is that it is in the period of sponsorship and debate. For that, Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the sponsor from the province of Nueva Ecija, the Honorable Rosana Vergara, to sponsor House Bill number 4122.
The Chair recognizes the sponsor, Congresswoman Vergara, for sponsorship speech. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have concluded the sponsorship speech. May I request instead that we recognize the Honorable Arlene Brosas of Gabriela Party List for her interpellation.
The chair recognizes the Gabriela Party List, Arlene Brosas. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, will the sponsor for digital tax yield to a few questions, Mr. Speaker?
Will the gentlelady yield to clarificatory or questions from Party List Gabriela?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
I
Please
will.
proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again.
Take two.
Take two. This is the second time around. Mr. Speaker, during the House Committee on Ways and Means deliberation on this proposed digital tax, we requested from the BIR a report of VAT collections on local digital service providers. May we know if the committee has already received the BIR report?
Yes, we have, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, may we be furnished a copy of the BIR report?
Mr. Speaker, may I clarify? This is the BIR report on the projected collections should this bill become a law. Is that right, Mr. Speaker?
No, no, Mr. Speaker. It is on the local collections, VAT collections, local digital service providers, VAT collections.
Noted, Mr. Speaker.
But do you have a copy, Mr. Speaker? Madam Sponsor,
Yes, we do, Madam Speaker.
do you have it with you?
Yes.
Yes, may we be furnished a copy, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, to the good sponsor, gusto kasi nating malaman kung nagko-comply na ang local digital service providers at kung gaano kalaki ang share nila sa total domestic VAT collections. For instance po, in 2020, more than 351 billion were recorded as domestic VAT revenues. Ilang porsyento dito ang mula sa VAT from domestic digital goods and services? At magkano po ito?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, is that a question, Kong Arlene?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I am asking about, first, nagko-comply na ba ang mga local digital service providers natin? Second, gaano kalaki ang share nila sa total VAT domestic collections? Magkano ito?
What I have now is the number, no? As of 2021, the total VAT collections is 26.25 billion.
26.25 billion lang, Mr. Speaker. Hindi ba masyadong maliit ito? That's for 2021 kasi ang nakalagay po sa recorded natin in 2022, it's 351 billion. Are you talking about the share of the local digital service providers lang?
Mr. Speaker, may I ask for a 5-minute suspension? We just want to transfer.
Session suspended.
So VAT collections, Mr. Speaker, for the year 2021 is 767.
Session resume.
I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Speaker,
Please
Honorable,
proceed, Congresswoman Vergara.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Arlene, the VAT collections from January 2021 to December 31, 2021 total 767.53 billion. This is both BIR and Bureau of Customs.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it correct to assume that Shopee, for instance, is already imposing the 12% VAT on its digital transactions? Tama po ba? Yung Shopee.
Yes, they are.
So, what are the other examples ng mga local digital service providers natin? Nagbabayad na ng 12% tax.
We have Lazada. And then again, there's the issue of compliance, Madam Speaker. Right now, the law is what we would call, it's in the gray area. It's not very specific, and that's why we have to amend that digital services providers, specifically foreign digital services providers who have no physical presence in our country, must pay 12% VAT. Right now, it's not clear in our laws, and sometimes companies like Shopee and Lazada, they take advantage on the lack of clarity, and that's why we would like to amend it. So it becomes something that's clearly black and white.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, before we go to the foreign or non-resident digital service providers, I would like to know kung ano pa yung mga local digital service providers na meron. Na
Right
nagbabayad
now,
na. For example, yung GCash po, may 12% VAT ba sila?
I'll answer first, Mr. Speaker, the first question. What are the local digital services providers? We have Lala Food, Metromart, Food Panda, to name a few. Now, to the question about GCash, like the ones of Globe, do they pay VAT? Is that the question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. So may 12% VAT na ba sila na sa digital transaction?
Yes, they pay 12% VAT, ma'am, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, ano ang effect sa kanila nito? Magdadagdag pa ng another 12% or papatawan ba itong, for example, ang GCash, papatawan pa ba ulit yan?
No more, because they're already paying 12% VAT.
So, Mr. Speaker, dito sa digital tax bill, no, sa mga existing na domestic goods and digital services natin, I am assuming na wala nang madadagdag na additional taxes.
Wala na po.
Right? So, walang additional VAT on existing domestic goods and digital services. Now,
Wala na po, dahil nagbabayad na po sila.
Now, on the issue of compliance, meron po kayong reports ng hindi nagbabayad. At ano po yung mga example ng mga reports ng hindi nagbabayad local, no? Na digital services na hindi nagbabayad?
Sa ngayon po, kagalang-galang na speaker, kagalang-galang na Arlene Brosas, hindi pa nga na-amendahan ng ating batas, kaya walang ngipin para habulin ito. So, ito ang buod ng batas na ito, na kapag pumasa ito, it will give the government authority to go after this local digital service providers that are earning more than 3 million annually to pay the VAT. So sadly, non-compliance doesn't mean that they can no longer operate. Until this bill is approved, there is really not much we can do.
Now, Mr. Speaker, I believe there are exemptions, right? For
Yes.
the digital services. Ano-ano po yun? Ano
Ang
po ang mga exempted?
Para ma-exempt po, tulad sa train law, na nasa batas na basta't ang inyong revenue po taon-taon ay hindi humihigit ng 3 milyon piso, exempt po kayo sa VAT na ito, whether you're a local digital service provider or a foreign digital service provider. And also, for your request, those e-publishing books or circulars that are used by state colleges, so educational digital publications are exempt.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was the olive branch of our of our chairman in the Committee of Ways and Means, si Chairman Joey Salceda. That's an olive branch lang po. But I told him I will still ask questions. So, Mr. Speaker, to our good sponsor, yung mga foreign digital service providers po ba ay meron nang nagbabayad sa ngayon? Even though wala pa tayong batas, are there foreign digital service providers na nagbabayad sa ngayon ng tax sa atin?
Dahil sa wala pa pong batas at hindi pa naka-set up, although we're ready na for the registration or yung tatawag natin ORUS, the online registration system for registering and payment of these taxes, sa ngayon wala pa po na foreign digital service provider na nagbabayad. Subalit, hindi ibig sabihin na ayaw nilang magbayad. In fact, in crafting this law, tinulungan po nila kami para malaman kung ano yung mga gusto nilang maipasok sa batas para ang hiling po kasi nila, they're willing to pay, just make it simple and efficient. That they don't have to be physically here, that they can do it via online. So that's why we put up ORUS.
So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, walang foreign digital service providers na nagbabayad sa ngayon. In any form, kahit po hindi VAT, meron po ba?
As of now, Mr. Speaker, Madam Rosas, wala pa po.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kaugnay po doon sa nakukuha nating total ng collections, VAT collection, para sa domestic digital service providers, magkano nga po ulit yun?
Sa ngayon?
Yes, for 2021. Tama po ba? 26? Sinabi nyo kanina, 26.
Is that the figure?
26 billion?
26 billion. Yes. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, magkano yung projected collection natin sa foreign?
Pag ito po ay naisabatas na, ang assuming 50% compliance lang, aabutin siya ng mga 96 billion.
Kung sa foreign, 96 billion. Can you check on it, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor? Kasi naalala ko po, nung nag-interpolate ako kay Rep. Stella Kimbo last time, she said during the deliberations of the House Concurrent Resolution number 2 that around 11.7 billion lang will be generated via digital tax.
The number, Mr. Speaker, that I gave, I stand corrected, it's 9.55 billion, assumes 50% compliance. We're very conservative. If all of them will pay, then it's 19 billion.
So 19...
At 70% compliance, 13.36 billion.
So 19 billion compliance, mas maliit pa rin sa 26 billion na nakukuha natin sa local domestic, no?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, paano po kinompute itong 9.55 billion or yung total compliance ng 19.5 billion?
Ang ginawa po ng Department of Finance, tinignan po namin how much will be generated from digital media, video games, video on demand like Netflix, then yung digital advertising, classified advertising, yung mga search engines like Google, videos, and banners. So, umupo po sila kasama ng Google, Netflix, Facebook, at sila mismo ang nagbigay ng figures at estimates.
Pero Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, mas malaki pa rin yung ambag ng local domestic, tama? Kesa doon. Kasi kung 26 billion ang nakuha natin sa local digital service providers, and we are projecting 9.55 lang or 19 billion pa nga kung total compliance, hindi ba mas malaki pa yung ambag ng local service providers natin?
Opo, pero hindi po ba yan ay isang bagay na dapat natin ikatuwa? Na yung ating mga local businesses ang siyang mas may malaking percentage na kumikita sa ating bansa. At ang batas na ito ay papatawan lang ng VAT itong mga foreign companies na kumikita sa ating bansa pero sa ngayon ay hindi nabubuwisan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor. I was thinking na dahil we're after the foreign companies, mas malaki yung kukuhanin natin o mas malaki yung makukuha natin mula sa kanila dahil sila ay non-resident digital service providers. Hindi po katulad ng mga lokal natin na tinutulungan natin sa kanilang mga negosyo o tinutulungan natin na mas umunlad pa dito sa Pilipinas, hindi sa labas ng bansa. So I was thinking na mas malaki talaga yung projection na makukuha from foreign or non-resident digital service providers. Now, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, we go to the non-resident digital service providers. Ano po? Can the good sponsor identify major? Kanina po binanggit nyo Google, Netflix, no? Mga major po na NDSPs which are doing business in the country and which will be liable for VAT remittance under this digital tax bill. So, Google yan, Netflix, ano pa po?
Meron pang Amazon.
Amazon.
Meron Carousel. We have PayPal, Spotify, Apple. Sa Amerika po ang tawag sa kanila is, yung the big four is GAFA, no? Google, Apple, Facebook or Meta, or Amazon. Pero yan lang yung big four. Pero mas marami pa rin na... Pero yun talaga, yung malalaking yon. If you can really pinpoint who we're after, Netflix, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor. Yung Zoom, yung Canva, yung iba pa.
Kasama din po yun.
Okay. Do you have a list, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor? May we have a copy of the companies na foreign?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Madam Arlene, like for instance, you mentioned Zoom. See, that's a gray area because we want to exempt them, diba? If their webinars are for educational purposes. So again, siguro sa IRR, we'll have to be very specific because we, in our desire to tax everything, pati yung mga alam natin na ginagamit for educational purposes, we want to exempt them, as you manifested po during our committee hearing. So would you like other names of digital medias that are operating here in our
It's okay,
country.
Madam,
For a
Mr.
list.
Speaker, Madam Sponsor, submit na lang po yung data na yan. I will go on to my next question. Maari bang malaman kung ano ang projected sources of Digitax revenues in terms of digital platforms and services? Digital payments ba ang main source? Halimbawa sa Netflix.
The VAT will be based on subscriptions. So mostly subscriptions.
Sa software licensing.
Meron din po.
So meron po ba kayong list ng paano ang payments?
When you say paano ang payments, paano sila magbabayad or magkano ang ibabayad nila?
Paano sila magbabayad? Is it in digital form also?
It will also be in digital form. This was the request of this foreign companies that they will comply with the law for as long as we can set up a system that will make it simple and efficient. And yun na nga yung tinatawag natin ORUS or ang acronym for Online Registration and Update System. It's an end-to-end taxpayer and business registration system that will improve voluntary compliance and reduce compliance costs, and at the same time, improve service delivery and taxpayer experience. Makakakuha po sila ng tax identification number in no less than 30 minutes. And the BIR can view this NRFC TIN applications and release it also within 30 minutes. So it's very efficient po.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, sinasabi niyo po kanina, parang 100% compliance ang target. Hindi 100%
ang
compliance ang target.
Nung gumawa po ng forecast, ginawa po ng BIR, 100% compliance would be 19 billion, 70% compliance, 13.36 billion, and 50% compliance, 9.55 billion. But syempre, ang objective natin is 100%. Yun ang gusto natin. But we recognize na ito ay isang bagong sistema, and we are also coordinating with other countries like Singapore that are imposing these kinds of taxing, how they can monitor and assess that they are fully compliant without just trusting them that what they're paying is what they're earning. Yun po ang pinakaayaw natin, na papatawan ng VAT tapos hindi naman ibibigay sa gobyerno. So yan po ay patuloy naming pinag-aaralan para yung dapat mapunta sa gobyerno ng Pilipinas na manggagaling sa mga gumagamit ng kanilang mga video streaming subscriptions ay mapupunta sa ating gobyerno.
Yes, kasi Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, problematic yun, di ba? Halimbawa, ang target mo lang ay 50% subscription-based.
No, I stand corrected, Mr. Speaker. I said that when we did the forecast, we did 50% compliance, ito ang target. Pag 70% compliance, ito ang magiging revenue stream. Of course, our target is 100% compliance. I hope you, if I was not clear, then I make myself clear. We're going for 100% compliance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor. Claro, 100%. You go for the 100%, no? Kasi, kung subscription-based po yun, paano ka, di ba? Paano ka magta-target kung 50% lang yung ano mo? So, yun lang. Thank you, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor. Kaugnay naman po sa, yung online registration system, wala pa yan, right?
Meron na po. It's actually ready. Nauna po siya sa batas.
Okay. So, meron na yan. Ginagamit na yan ngayon.
Hindi po ginagamit, pero it's ready to be used as soon as this becomes a law.
Okay. Sino pong nag-produce or gumawa nung...
Ang alam ko po, we worked with, it was funded by ADB. It was a grant with ADB. And it was created by SGV. It was developed by SGV together with the BIR and Asian Development Bank.
Okay. So hindi pa ito ginagamit?
Hindi pa po.
Ano pa lang siya, no? Application pa lang siya. Ganyan.
The software is ready for use. And pag naging batas na po ito, we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Meron po bang sampling or testing na ginawa kaugnay dito, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor?
Mr. Speaker, we can provide the good Honorable Congressman Brosas on a chart on how it will go, the flow. It's very simple po. I can provide it po.
Yes, kasi who vetted for it? Is it a private company? Kung ADB grant po siya, ano yung naging role ng gobyerno dyan sa paggagawa ng online registration system? And baka, syempre, di ba, yung loopholes or ano yung mga pwede nating i-anticipate na magiging problema?
Hindi po siya kamahalan. It only cost us. The terms of reference were, of course, provided by the BRR, and the grant was provided by ADB.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor. Kung meron pong kopya nung terms of reference ninyo, may we also have a copy of that?
Yes,
And-
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, kaugnay naman po sa cost implications. Halimbawa, kung sa Netflix, tama bang sabihin na tataas ng halos $2 o additional 110 pesos ang standard monthly subscription fee kung ipapataw ang 12% VAT?
Which package, Mr. Speaker, is the Honorable Brosas talking about? Is this the package kung single user lang? Or
Yes, kasi yung implications na po yung ang pinakaayaw po sana natin ay maging pass on sa consumer yung pagtatax natin na ito. Yung madagdagan, halimbawa, yung subscription nila ng added costing. So, ang tanong ko po, ano ang implication, halimbawa, kung sa Netflix, tataas ng halos $2 ba yan? 110 pesos? Yung standard monthly subscription kapag
Mr.
naging
Speaker,
batas?
the most affordable package of Netflix is 149 pesos. It's 249 pesos. So it's a 12% VAT. That translates to an additional almost 30 pesos, 29.88.
So sa single user standard fee, ganyan?
Mr. Speaker, here. Apparently, Netflix has different plans. If it's a mobile plan, it's 149 pesos, which will result to an additional 17.88 centavos. A basic plan is 369 pesos, or an additional 44.28 centavos. The standard plan of 459 pesos will result to an additional 55.08 centavos, and the premium, which is 549 pesos, will result to an additional 65.88. Yun po yung allows up to 4 people to use the subscription.
So a little bit lower than 110, 65.88 ng premium. Single user standard fee, ano? A little bit.
Yes, well, the single user standard fee would only be 44.28. So, yeah, there's economies of scale. Mas maganda kung nandun ka sa premium, mas mababa ang VAT mo.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor. Yun po yung sinasabi ko kanina na consumption-based system po kasi yung VAT eh. No? Kaya ito po yung talagang iniaangal namin kaugnay dito na ang taxation, ang siyang babalikat ay yung mga ordinaryo nating mamamayan. Kasi i-add din sa kanila yon ng mga foreign companies. So, halimbawa, yung mga umaasa po na overseas Filipino workers, wag na tayo sa Netflix kasi baka sa Netflix, baka isipin nyo po, nanunood, ganito, ayun yung may kakayanan na mag-Netflix. Halimbawa po naman sa overseas Filipino workers sa foreign digital payment services tulad ng Western Union para sa pagpapadala ng pera sa kanilang pamilya. Apektado ba sila dito sa mga digital tax?
Sa ngayon po kasi nagbabayad na. Western Union. Sa the exempted pong OFWs using Western Union. Hindi po sila nagbabayad.
Hindi sila nagbabayad. Sa iba po, sa Palawan,
Pag within the Philippines?
yes. At kapag gagamit sila ng saklaw ba sila ng proposed digital tax? Palawan, Western Union. Gumaganon si Emma.
No. Mr. Speaker, no. Because they're already covered by the local laws, Mr. Speaker. If I may digress, Mr. Speaker, to the point Kong Brosas brought up about Netflix. Your concern, ma'am, is yung OFWs na nagne-Netflix na ngayon ay magbabayad ng VAT. Sa katotohanan po, yung Netflix po, naka-socialized pricing sila. Mas mura po ang Netflix subscription sa Pilipinas kesa kunwari magsasubscribe sila if they're in the Middle East. Mas mahal po. So mas pabor sa kanila kung ang gagamitin nilang subscription base ay yung sa Pilipinas dahil mas mura po ang Netflix subscription dito kesa kung magsasubscribe sila from the Middle East, mas mataas po ang charges ng Netflix at ang taxes na babayaran ng OFW na magsasubscribe sa Netflix kung siya po ay kukuha ng subscription at her place where she's a resident of. Yun po ang kagandahan ng pricing ng Netflix.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am not talking about the Netflix. Sa usapin po ng mga, paano yung digital payment services. Yun yung sa OFWs na tanong ko. For example, sa PayPal. Foreign digital payment services.
This bill does not cover that. Those foreign digital payments na pinag-uusapan niyo po is covered by other tax laws. So itong bill na ito, pag pumasa, hindi po apektado dyan.
So
Hindi
wala
po
sa PayPal.
magdadagdag ng additional taxes to the existing taxes that they're already paying. Wala pong kinalaman ang amendment na ito dyan sa mga sa mga money transfers of OFWs.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor. Madam Sponsor, regarding the base erosion and profits sharing, BEPS po ito, framework, initiated by the OECD, is the Philippines already a signatory?
Sa ngayon po, pinag-aaralan pa rin tong OECD. In fact, they're hoping that they can have the framework for all countries that are members to adopt. Pero it will not be ready until 2023. So kaya po natin ginagawa lang itong amendment na ito to take advantage of this lead time. I mean, sayang naman yung panahon kung hihintayin natin lumabas itong uniform taxing for digital streaming services at the OECD Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 na pinag-aaralan pa. Pag lumabas na po yun, susunod na rin po tayo doon dahil tayo po ay kasama doon as a member country.
But as of now, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, hindi po tayo signatory. Tama?
Not yet, Madam. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Arlene.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, in several countries, digital service tax is not imposed as value-added tax. but as tax on gross revenues. Bakit natin ipapataw ang digital tax as VAT na isang consumption tax?
Yung digital service tax kasi, mas mabigat yon. Ang digital service tax is based on total revenues. So pagka ganon ang ginawa natin, mas malamang mas malaki po ang taxes na ipapasa. Kaya po naging VAT is one. Right now, that's the law of the land. All goods and services that are produced and used in our country are imposed VAT. Talagang sinadya po na hindi digital service tax ang ginamit dahil mas malaki po yung kalalabasan dahil sa total revenue po ng kumpanya at not on what is consumed.
Hindi po ba mas mahirap naman ito para sa mga consumption-based na, 'di ba? Ang tataksan kasi dito yung mga ordinaryo nating mamamayan 'di ba? So, if there is a way na hindi madagdagan yung kanilang binabayaran dahil sa pag-consume nila ng iba't ibang mga pangangailangan, lalo na kung ito ay mga digital services na talaga namang essential para sa kanila, di mas maganda po sana na hindi ito kuhanin mula sa VAT or hindi pamamaraan ang VAT para dito. Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor.
Kaya po, Mr. Speaker, VAT ang napili na gamitin dahil yan po ang pinakasimple at mabilis ma-impose at naiintindihan na I am with you, Kong Brosas. I don't like additional taxes for Filipinos, especially during this time of pandemic. But I personally feel that it's not fair na these foreign digital services providers who are making money of subscriptions, of games played in our country, we don't want to be the country in Asia that says, go to the Philippines, stream there. You know, they don't have any laws. You can send movies, games there, and malabo ang laws nila doon. Naghihintay pa sila sa OECD para lumabas ng framework kung paano magbabayad ng VAT. We don't want to send that signal. And the ones we're after really is this big multi-billion Fortune 500 companies, billions of pesos, to give back naman to our country what is due to our country since they're making money off naman Filipinos who are using their services. But I agree with you, we don't like additional taxes, but the ones that we hope, and to make them competitive, my fervent hope really is that they absorb this VAT and not pass it on. That for me is ideal, and that is my prayer. But then again, of course, at the end of the day, it's still a business. I just don't want local digital service providers to be at a disadvantage because foreign digital service providers don't have a way to remit the VAT to us because our laws are not very clear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor. Pero hindi ba nga we're after the foreign companies, so dapat bigger ang collection on them? And kung ang pagbabatayan po natin ay ang tax on gross revenues, di ba mas okay yon? Kasi we're going after nga sa mga foreign companies. So, at hindi VAT ang gamitin.
We're only imposing VAT on digital transactions as the OECD G20 BEPS, which you mentioned, the two-pillar solution. The global initiative is to impose income tax on digital economy. It's still being discussed. And VAT is the simplest and the easiest. And time is of the essence. In fact, as the Honorable Interpolator knows, pumasa na po ito nung 18th Congress, hindi lang po na-tackle nung upper house. Kaya it's my fervent prayer po na the 19th Congress, in our first regular session, pumasa na po ito para mas mabilis po natin maging batas dahil kahit sabihin mo 50% compliance, 9.55 billion is 9.55 billion. that can really help our country in the social services, sa pagtulong sa mga pag-increase ng sweldo ng mga guro. Ang dami po natin pangangailangan. This is what they call yung low-hanging fruit. Nandyan na, gusto nilang magbayad. But hindi pa natin gawan ng paraan para po makinabang naman po ang ating bansa. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, for the explanation. In fact, ako rin po yung tumayo dito last Congress para questionin yung digitax na tinatawag natin. Gusto ko lang sabihin po na kung wala pa yung BEPS o yung base erosion and profit sharing, ano po yung naging basis ng digital bill na ito? Diba? Kaya nyo po ba sinasabi yon dahil yun nga, ang form ay VAT na ang iniisip ninyo na gawin?
We are one of, I think there are 80 or 90 As of now, Mr. Speaker, we are one of the 12 countries that are drafting legislation. There are over 90 legislations all over the world on imposing VAT on digital transactions. Yung sa guidelines naman po na ginamit natin for this VAT on digital taxes is based rin po on the OECD BEPS that you are referring to. Yun din po ang ating ginamit sa yung VAT GST guidelines ng OECD in crafting po this amendment.
But Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, kanina po tinanong ko kayong signatory tayo. Sabi nyo hindi.
Hindi, we're not a signatory, but when they do come out with the guidelines so that we're competitive and we don't, yun nga ang maganda eh, pag lumabas yung guidelines at lumabas na mas pabor sa Pilipinas yung guidelines, hindi ba dapat sumama tayo doon?
Yes, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, kaya ako po tinatanong yung basehan para malaman natin etong taxation na ginagawa sa ating bayan. Although, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, while it is true that the playing field must be fair, naniniwala naman po tayo doon, na especially to local online digital service providers, we believe levying a new tax in the form of digital tax on other streaming services and digital transactions is not the way forward. Yung mga ordinaryong mamamayan pa rin ang papasa ng digitax na ito habang niluluwagan naman natin ang tax burden ng mga malalaking korporasyon. Instead, we can impose taxes on foreign digital service providers through tax on gross revenues. Totoo naman po, sinabi nyo nga gagamitin, di ba, yung revenues for social services, etc. Pero kung tataksan mo rin yung mga maliliit na walang-wala na, di ba, hindi naman yon makatwiran. Kaya sa halip na digitax, mahigpit po ang assertion namin na dapat ikonsidera ang wealth tax na tiyak na lilikha ng mas malaking revenues kumpara sa panukalang digital tax. Around 98 billion nga po will be generated if we impose a wealth tax on the top 20 billionaires. Mas ito po sana ang nakukonsidera natin and other taxes ng mga korporasyon instead of a consumption-based tax system na ginagamit natin ngayon na nagdadagdag talaga tayo ng taxes sa mga ordinaryong mamamayan. Yun lang po, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Sponsor. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I respond to Cong Brosas?
Yeah, please do so.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Brosas, for your interpellation, and I recognize your concern, and I think the wealth tax that you're talking about will fall under a different bill. Tulad mo, ayoko rin na madagdagan ang mga taxes ng ating mga kababayan. Subalit tulad ng sinabi ko, hindi po ito bagong tax. Yung mga iniisip mo na yung mga OFWs kung na gumagamit ng digital system, hindi po sila apektado dahil nagbabayad na ng tax. Ang talagang habol po namin dito ay ang mga foreign digital service providers na kumikita sa ating bansa na hindi nagbabayad ng tax tulad ng mga local digital service providers po na may taxes, hindi lang VAT, kundi corporate income tax. So, we're leveling the playing field. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, before we proceed with the next interpellator, may I first move to recognize the guests of the Honorable Glona Labad-Labad, the 2nd District of Zamboanga, who are in the gallery. And they are Glenn Omania, Councilor from the Municipality of Manukan, Neil Vincent Masayon, Mayor of Enrique Villanueva, the province of Siquijor, Rehoboth Joel Omana, George Bernardo, Ferdinand Ferli Hamak, John Glar Omana, Carlos Rafael Monteroso, Rodrigo Bucar, and Rex Dalman, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome to the House of Representatives, to the guest of Congresswoman Glona Labad-Labad of the 2nd District of Zamboanga del Norte. Welcome. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move to recognize Representative Franz L. Castro of the ACT Teachers Party List for his interpellation. For her interpellation, sorry.
The distinguished lady from ACT Party List is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Would the good sponsor yield to some of my questions? Konti na lang ito, Mr. Speaker, dahil yung iba naman po ay naitanong na ni Congresswoman Brosas.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, so first, Mr. Speaker, I beg to disagree no, na this digital tax, we could say that nililevel natin yung playing field dahil ito po ay consumption tax. Kahit na halimbawa po nasaan ka man, dahil ito ay consumption tax, ang magmamatter nito ay yung ibinayad ng isang consumer doon sa services, digital tax, through digital, yung nagmamatter dito. So hindi siya dahil yung provider ay local or hindi dahil ang provider ay foreigner. Do you agree with that, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, could you clarify, Kong Castro, again the main point that you believe this is additional tax because it's going to be consumption tax? Is that the point?
Yes. So yun po yung sinasabi ko, Mr. Speaker. Kaya hindi natin pwedeng sabihing leveling the playing field between the traditional and digital businesses by clarifying the imposition of value-added tax on digital services. Dahil whether, tingin ko, Mr. Speaker, whether it is traditional or whether it is digital, dahil ito ay ipapasa natin sa consumer ay parehas lang siya. Hindi siya sinasabi nating the same lang naman siya. Halimbawa, for example, Mr. Speaker, so dito, napansin ko na, Mr. Speaker, na yung halimbawa Shopee, Lazada, ay kumukuha na yon ng VAT. Kasi makikita mo naman, kapag nag-transact ka doon, nakalagay na doon, VAT included. So, ibig sabihin, halimbawa, 100 pesos yan times 12%. So, ang babayaran pa rin yan, 12% ng 100. So,
12 pesos.
12 pesos. Halimbawa, and then on the other side naman, foreign provider ako, Netflix. Halimbawa, 100 pesos din yung babayaran doon sa service ng Netflix. Dahil 12% yan, si consumer magbabayad pa rin ng 12%. So, ibig sabihin nun, ang ibig sabihin, consumer pa rin yung nagbabayad, whether traditional or digital. So yun yung pagkakaintindi ko doon.
Yes, Madam Honorable Speaker, and Madam Interpolator Franz Castro. When we say level the playing field, we're looking at it from the side of the digital service provider. Leveling the playing field po dahil yung mga local digital services provider, tulad ng Shopee, nagbabayad ng 12% VAT dahil nandito po sila, may opisina sila sa Pilipinas. Meron din silang corporate income tax. Pero yung Netflix na walang opisina dito, wala po silang binabayad na VAT dahil ang ating batas sa ngayon ay hindi pa malinaw. We need to amend it to recognize that even if you're a foreigner at wala kang opisina dito, basta yung goods at services mo ay ang gumagamit ay mga Pilipino sa bansang Pilipinas, dapat bigyan ng VAT. So dun po yung leveling the playing field from the side, from the point of view of the digital service provider.
So, Mr. Speaker, hindi ko pa rin yun maintindihan. Dahil ang value-added tax ay consumer's tax or consumption tax, kaya ang magbabayad ay consumer, hindi naman yung company. Halimbawa, yung Shopee nga, ipinapass on niya lang din yon sa bibili ng product mula sa Shopee. So itong Netflix na foreign provider, taga-kolekta lang siya. Nung 12% na kukolektahin mula sa consumer din na Filipino na gumagamit ng Netflix. So, ganun yon. Parang, kumbaga, Mr. Speaker, kung ako, nagsa-Shopee ako, no? So, kinukolektahan na ako ng Shopee, ng Lazada, ng 12%. Pero ako, gumagamit ako ng Netflix. For the meantime, ang binabayaran ko lang ay yung 149 na basic na binabayad ko for using the digital service. Pero kapag napatupad itong batas na to, Mr. Speaker, hindi na ako libre doon sa VAT dahil papatawan na nila. So, kapag napasa ito, ako na ngayon, na consumer, magbabayad na ako ng 12%.
Tama
So yun, kasi ang computation ng digitax na ito ay, Mr. Speaker, ay doon sa consumer, not to the income noong service provider or ng company international na nagpo-provide nun.
Tama po, Mr. Speaker. The core point, Madam Honorable Interpolator, is yung VAT po, basta goods and services produced in our country, lahat po nagbabayad ng VAT. Ang exemption dyan po ay kung if you're not nasa 3 million threshold. Pero dahil ang batas po natin ay hindi siya clear, we need to amend it to recognize that the world we live in has changed and that we can actually do business without being in the Philippines. Yun na nga, yung mga Netflix, yung Prime, yung Amazon. So, ina-amend lang po natin para naman yung mga digital service providers na walang presence o nexus sa ating bansa ay magbabayad rin ng VAT tulad ng mga kumpanya na nag-ooperate sa ating bansa.
Yes,
Hindi po ba tama
Speaker?
yun?
Hindi. Para sa akin po, hindi sila yung nagbabayad ng VAT. Ang nagbabayad po ng VAT ay yung consumer. So, ang mangyayari dito, yung international provider ng DG services, siya po yung taga-kolekta ng VAT na kukuhanin niya doon sa consumer na nag-avail nung kanyang services. So, yun po yung intindi ko doon. Kaya ako nga, ginamit ko nga yung sarili ko eh. Ako, nagsa-Shopee ako, may 12% na ako doon. Ngayon, nagde-Netflix ako, ang bayad ko lang 149. Pero kapag pinasa na itong batas na ito, kakaltasan na ako ng 12% ng 149. So, walang damage yon sa international company. So, yun ang sinasabi natin, kasi consumer tax ito.
Yes,
Consumer.
Mr. Speaker and Congressman Castro, ang mangyayari po kasi pag hindi natin pinasa ito, disadvantageous po sa ating mga domestic companies. It will make foreign businesses cheaper because they can operate here without charging VAT, whereas local businesses will have to pay VAT because that's the law of the land. Hindi naman po ata tama yon na yung ating mga sariling kumpanya na Filipino-owned, na sumusunod, nagbabayad ng VAT, they charge VAT for their goods and services, at yung foreign company na walang opisina dito dahil hindi natin inamendahan, mas mura ang services nila. Parang kawawa naman yung Filipino companies po.
Okay, so ganun pa rin yung paniniwala ko, Mr. Speaker. Hindi ito magiging disadvantageous sa mga local company na nandito na kinukuhanan natin ng 12% VAT doon sa, as against doon sa foreign company na nagsaservice dito. Ang may disadvantage dito ay yung katulad natin na consumer. Kasi malinaw, ang VAT ay consumer tax. Ang nagbabayad ng VAT ay consumer. Pero kung ang kokolektahin nating tax, Mr. Speaker, ay kung magkano yung kinita ng halimbawa Netflix, kumita halimbawa dito ng 5 bilyon mula sa mga Filipino consumers at kuhanan natin ng income tax, yung 5 billion na yon. So mas ganon yung mas ganon ang mas advantageous sa atin as a government. Pero ito, as a Filipino consumer, disadvantage ka dito. So ayun. Siguro hindi na ako magpapalalim doon, Mr. Speaker. Pangalawa kong tanong ay yung tungkol dun sa collection on registration. So, kanina natanong na ng konti, yung registration nitong mga foreign service, digital provider na ito. So, meron naman sigurong listahan na ang BIR noong mga foreign digital service provider. Tama po ba? Meron na?
Meron na po, Mr. Speaker,
Okay.
Honorable Castro. In fact, hinihintay lang po nilang maging batas ito dahil gusto rin po nilang magbayad.
So, for example, pag naging batas na ito, ako si Netflix, magre-register na ako sa BIR
Opo.
as digital provider.
Ang sistema po na that was created po by the BIR is yung tinatawag nilang ORUS, which stands for Online Registration and Update System.
Okay.
That's, it's
So-
ready to, kumbaga, shovel-ready na po, handa na po.
Okay. So, yung ORUS ay simplified na digital na pamamaraan na makapag-register sila, makapag-register yung mga international provider, no? So, how would this bill ensure na talagang makokolekta natin yung tamang tax?
Sa ngayon po, yan po, nakausap ko recently si Secretary Ivan Uy ng PICT, Mr. Speaker, and inaalam namin with, like sa Singapore, where they charge VAT or GST sa mga digital service providers, how they can fully comply. In short, they're sharing with us the best practices, what they're doing, so we can also implement it here in our country.
So, wala pa po tayong, Mr. Speaker, katiyakan na makukolekta natin ng tama itong tax na to. Kasi kung alam ako Netflix, kinilektahan mo ko ng 12%. So how would you know how would the Philippine government na maire-remit niya yung tama o na-remit yung VAT ko doon sa Philippine government? So dapat may malinaw na rin po, Mr. Speaker, kung ito ay ilalagay sa IRR, so makikita natin yan. So tama po ba? Kasi parang lang ito no? Kailangan ma-ensure talaga natin kung talagang ipatutupad natin ito. Meron na tayong malinaw na mekanismo na totoo yung ibibigay sa atin ng international provider. Baka later on quote-unquote, pasensya na sa paggamit ng term, ma-estafa lang tayo dito sa batas na ito. O ma-estafa tayo ng ilang mga foreign service provider.
So, Mr. Speaker, I understand the concern of Honorable Castro, the NTC and the DICT. This is an interagency project now. We're all working together with the BIR to make sure that once this is a law, may full compliance. And that the temporary closure that's contemplated yung, ano yung tawag doon? Kandado? Oplan Kandado. The way we implement that with the brick and mortar stores here, ganyan din po ang gagawin namin. Kaya ang tanong ko kay Secretary Uy noon is, may kakayahan ba tayo na pag hindi nag-remit ng maayos ang digital service provider, kaya ba natin pigilan ang pagpasok ng kanilang mga services? At ang sagot naman is, kaya po.
Okay. So sana merong may penalty provision. So parang wala dito sa batas na to, Mr. Speaker.
Meron po. We want to also put the Oplan Candado in this bill.
Sa ngayon wala. Wala siya dito.
Magiging amendment po during the... It will be a proposed amendment po.
Okay, proposed amendment. So yun yung hinahanap ko, no? Yung penalty para matiyak natin na papasok sa government revenue yung makokolekta. Speaking of NTC and DICT, how would you protect naman yung privacy ng mga consumers na mag-aano nito, no? Dahil usong-uso ngayon, Mr. Speaker, yung mga text scam, yung mga kung ano-ano. So, syempre, pag nag-register ang rito, yung mga telephone number niya, yung mga data niya ay papasok din sa international. So, how would we protect the privacy of our consumers or the Filipino people who would avail ng services?
Ang pagkaalam ko, Mr. Speaker, ang magre-register dito is not the individual subscribers. Ang magre-register po are the online digital service providers. So kahit po sila, yun din po ang kanilang concern.
So yun nga po, Mr. Speaker, hindi naman yung individual yung magre-register dyan. So ipoprovide ito ng international provider. So paano masisiguro nung mga Pilipino na mga consumer nitong international provider na hindi gagamitin yung kanilang data for something, di ba? So paano natin po protectionan yung karapatan sa data privacy ng mga Filipinos?
Mr. Speaker, sa pagkaalam ko, dito ngayon sa mundo, ang pinakamahalagang pinoprotektahan ay hindi yung revenue base o yung kita, kundi information. So, sa nakikita ko po sa pag-amenda ng batas na ito, kahit yung digital service provider, the less information they can give about their subscriber base, the better for them. So, I would think that they would give the barest minimum kung magagawa nila ng paraan na sa isang location, sasabihin nila, 10 yung aming subscribers there without giving the names of who, yun ang mas gusto nila. Dahil whoever has the most information has the most advantage. So, hindi po ako nag-aalala sa puntong yon. Ang mas gusto ko po, yung compliance. Dahil ang pinakaayaw ko pong mangyari, magpapataw sila ng VAT, tapos hindi po nila ireremit sa ating gobyerno. So, yun ang aking babantayan. Kung kayo ay magcha-charge ng VAT, siguraduhin na sa Philippine government nyo ireremit yan at hindi magiging dahilan kung bakit kayo pa ay kikita ng mas malaki dahil nakakalusot yung iba na sasabihin nyo 100% compliance na pala, subalit 70% lang ang rineremit. Mas doon po ang aking concern.
Okay. So, syempre, mas concern ko po yung data privacy ng ating mga mamamayan. Last question na lang po, Mr. Speaker. Usually po, pag gumagawa tayo ng mga ganitong batas on tax revenue, meron talaga tayong defined na beneficiary. Like for example, yung mga sin tax, mapupunta yun sa universal healthcare. Tapos ito, parang sinasabi lang natin in general, mapupunta sa social services. So wala po bang ganong plano ang author ng batas na ito na magbigay talaga ng definite na beneficiary nung ipapasang batas na ito at pagkolekta ng revenue?
Sa ngayon po, wala pa. Pero kung ako po ang tatanungin, ang aking prioridad ay yung mga sweldo ng mga guro, mga para sa healthcare services, mga ambulansya, yun po ang aking prioridad. At makakaasa po kayo na pareho po ang ating pangarap na yung ating mga teachers po na parating disappointed na lang po, hindi na ipabibigay yung naipangako. Sana sa pagtaas po ng revenues ng ating gobyerno, sila po ang unang makita at mabigyan ng tugon.
So I agree with the sponsor, Mr. Speaker. And for that, I end my interpellation. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
For
Thank
the
you,
next
Congressman
interpolator,
Castro.
Mr. Speaker, may I move that we recognize the Honorable Senior Deputy Minority Floor Leader, Representative Rapol Daza of the 1st District of Northern Samar.
Representative Dasa is recognized to interpolate.
Thank you,
proceed.
Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield to a few questions?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Daza.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, there are really many types of taxes in the world, and you could basically just categorize them into 4 or 5 types of taxes. You have income tax, you have consumption tax, like sales tax and VAT. You have capital gains on property and assets. And you have, let's say, inheritance tax. Depending on the public policy, the government will calibrate which tax to use. In this particular case that's on the floor is a VAT on online transactions. And it's correct, the 2 previous interpreters said that they were consumption taxes. In other parts of the world, they're called sales tax. To clarify for all of us here, the goal was to equalize basically the non-resident corporations like Netflix, Amazon, big players, to equalize the playing field with the supposed local players who are paying taxes. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Congressman Daza.
Okay, if that's one of the main goals of this proposed bill, there's also 2 ways to categorize taxes. There are direct taxes and indirect. An indirect tax would be a sales tax or a VAT tax, a consumption tax, because it's taxed to everyone. A direct tax is like an income tax. It's very specific on the income an individual or a corporation's earning. So if our target is to equalize the playing field and to tax large non-resident corporations, why not focus on income tax? Why did we focus on VAT, which hurts all consumers?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My understanding here, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Daza, is we wanted to use a tax that was most simplified. The tax, I think, that you're talking about, the direct tax, in the OECD, they would refer that to digital service tax. The problem there is, number one, it's more difficult to compute, especially for this foreign digital service providers that don't have any presence in our country. How to compute their income tax here, and we use the OECD VAT GST guidelines to come up with this system, which according to them is the simplest way to get this foreign digital services providers to comply. That was the same issue raised, and according to someone from the BIR, a direct tax might result to retaliatory measures, that if our country imposes direct tax on these foreign digital service providers, they might retaliate and start taxing our exports to their country. Most of these foreign digital service providers are in the United States. And so we're playing like a balancing act. Taxing them where they're willing to pay, but not taxing them to the point that they would want to retaliate and hurt our exports.
I understand, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the explanation by our esteemed colleague. But the point I think that 2 previous interpellators were trying to drive at was that putting a VAT on all these transactions puts the burden on consumers rather than the provider. Okay? Now, if we really wanted to tax these big players, in many countries of the world, I know because I used to be a tax practitioner in California, and I handled many clients all over the world. These big players that were mentioned earlier are what we call non-resident corporations. Because of the internet, they're able to do what they're doing, which makes it a little harder to tax them now. But it's not so simple because the sponsor herself said, Mr. Speaker, we know who those big players are. All we need to do, or BIR needed to do, was or we could pass a law, instead of a VAT on online, pass a law requiring these online providers of services to establish residence in the Philippines. Therefore, they would need to go through all the registration process and would have to file a tax return and then tax them on their income based on income from local sales in the Philippines, rather than putting the burden on all the consumers. Don't you think that would be more reasonable and more of a targeted approach? Income tax on these large companies, rather than taxing now everyone, because it's counter to, I think, what our policy was, which was to encourage e-commerce and digitalization.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an excellent point, Congressman Daza. In fact, no less than Chair Joey Salceda is of the same mind as you. However, it became the consensus in the Committee on Ways and Means that to impose that kind of taxation system might actually be detrimental to these digital service providers, and so it became a consensus that we would start with just VAT. I believe in the bill, it will require that they will have a third-party representative that we can run after in the event that this VAT payments are not remitted. But on the corporate income tax and requiring them to set up an office, regrettably, this is not part of this bill. Hopefully, another bill could be filed suggesting that and can be taken up at the appropriate time.
I appreciate the openness and the transparency, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate that from the sponsor. I'm worried that because of our aim to tax non-resident multinational corporations, that we would be unnecessarily burdening the local small players. I'm really worried because, this representation before he was elected into office was in the private sector. In fact, did some online startups. So I'm very worried that this could be some sort of a chilling bill through the wrong way to tax on the local players just because we wanted to get the outside players. So I would encourage, if it's in the power of the sponsor and my colleagues here, to seriously reconsider this bill. I honestly think that it could create more harm than good. I know we all want revenues, but I haven't even gotten to the next part of my interpellation, which I will show to this good sponsor, that this is really counterproductive. Today, as we all know, I think the peso dollar is now at 56 to 1, 57 to 1. The midterm and long-term effect of the peso devaluation will be a pressure on the inflation of the consumer goods and prices. Okay? And if you look at any survey, now and previously, whether it's an election year or not, one of the top concerns of most Filipinos is the high prices or continued inflation of goods, especially food. So this type of tax actually contributes to inflationary pressures. So, and I think it's counterproductive to what the economic managers are trying to do right now, which is to control inflation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Daza. Fortunately, the services being provided by this foreign digital service providers, they're not really what you'd call basic commodities. We can live without them. I'd like to think of them as like Netflix. I can do without Netflix. I just turn on my TV. It's not like if the prices of rice go up, then I really feel it. Or digital games that the youth are now crazy about. The services being rendered by these digital service providers like Google for advertising are not what I'd call essential basic commodities that would really have, how would you say, affect the lower middle class or the CDE section of our country. Nonetheless, to your concern that it's a disincentive, I'd just like to point out that it exempts local digital service providers as well as foreign digital service providers that have an income threshold, revenue threshold below 3 million pesos.
Well,
so it will not hurt the small players.
Mr. Speaker, I apologize, but I think that's debatable. You'd be surprised now, there are many local suppliers online. And in fact, I had thought that all of us, the legislative branch, the executive branch, the private sector, wanted to encourage more e-commerce. We wanted to digitalize, especially the unbanked. We wanted to bring online, especially the lower income households. The pandemic kind of fast-tracked that, which is in a way good, even though the pandemic wasn't. I'm so worried that there will be some of these entrepreneurs who are near that threshold of 3 million, and once the BIR starts cracking down, we'll lose more entrepreneurs that wanted to do online business. So I'm really concerned about that. I know the sponsors are doing a good job defending the bill, but I hope at the right time, maybe my other colleagues here will join me to interpolate and find a way to improve the bill if it's going to pass. Which is one of my contentions. How did we come up with a 3 million threshold? Why not 2.5? Why not 5 million? What was the legal or what was the financial rational basis for the 3 million?
I believe the 3 million threshold was based on similar thresholds of other ASEAN countries, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, today, in year 2022, from what I recall, if you're an income earner of 250,000 pesos or less, you don't need to file a tax return because it's zero tax. So meaning if you're essentially making about 20,000 a month, you're zero tax. Is that a fair statement to make?
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Daza, I wasn't paying attention. Could you repeat, sir?
Today, in year 2022, if you were to file a tax return, if you're making 250,000 pesos or below, you're not required to file a tax return because you're at the zero tax threshold.
Yes. Yes,
correct?
That is
Okay.
right, Mr. Speaker.
My understanding is, if you're an online and you're just starting up, if you're an entrepreneur and you're barely making it, your spread, basically your spread on goods or services that you're selling online, especially the small ones, are not very high. I estimate, if you're just a startup, Mr. Speaker, that if you were making money, your spread would probably be around 5, at the most 10%. So meaning at 3 million sales, and to be conservative, because we want to encourage entrepreneurship, we want to encourage small, micro, MSMEs. At 5%, my computation is your net income, your income at 3 million sales is about 150,000. That's still below the 250,000 threshold. So to me, it doesn't make sense to put it at 3 million threshold. It's too low.
But Mr. Speaker, my understanding is it's 250,000 annually.
Correct.
Re-
And
correct.
my computation is on an annual basis.
And your computation is digital provider making around 150,000 a month. That would be like
That would be my best guess, having been in startups before. So essentially, we're discouraging new, small startups because you're now going to VAT them 12%. That's a major impact on your cost of goods and your market. So that's why I'm worried about this bill.
So, Mr. Speaker, may I ask the Honorable Congressman Daza, what would be a comfortable threshold for you?
I think logically, if which is the law now, the threshold is 250,000. Okay, we don't tax the first 250,000, which is a good. We passed that through the wisdom of the House. I think 16th or 17th Congress, and I'm very proud of that. Which I thought was very good. My computation is at a margin of 5%, let's say, to be conservative. Roughly, I think it should be more around 5 million pesos. So if you make 5% on 5 million, which is 250,000, you're still consistent with the existing tax law of no tax from 250 below.
I agree, Mr. Speaker, and I take cognizance of the point you've made. We shall look into this, and but I'd just like to say that initially, the threshold was at 2.5 million. We increased it to 3 million because of the consumer price index. And at this point, this is something that, I'm sorry, I'm not at liberty to just say that, yes, while I concur, it's above my pay grade to say that this will be amended. But your point, sir, is well taken and will be reviewed.
Thank you for that. I'm crossing my fingers that you will help me lobby that, because I think we're doing a disservice to the small businesses, the MSMEs, to the new startups, the entrepreneurs. I think we would do a better job if the House amends it and brings it up to 5 million. Mr. Speaker, there's a few online transactions I wanted clarification on. I think it's good. We exempted basically educational type of goods and services. I'm thumbs up on that. If you're, let's say, transacting to buy stocks in the Philippine Stock Exchange, okay, I wanted to invest in San Miguel, PLDT. My broker, I just push a button online. I buy, 10,000 pesos worth of San Miguel or whatever stock. I get charged normally a small fee. I think it's about 1%, more or less. There's a corresponding, I think, DST, a documentary stamp tax, which is 0.025 from what I remember. So that transaction, would that be taxed a VAT?
Mr. Speaker, the transactions you're talking about, Honorable Daza, is not covered by this bill. There are, I think, other existing tax laws that are already in place for those kinds of financial transactions.
Is that specifically included in the bill? That online investments, stock exchange transactions done online will not be subject to VAT?
May I ask for a 5-minute suspension, Mr. Speaker?
Session is suspended.
Normal rules.
Ganito.
Session is resumed.
Mr. Speaker, regarding the query of Congressman Daza, I just like to say that the amendment, we're only amending 106 and 108 of the tax of our Internal Revenue Code. And as such, the transactions and the points he raised will not be affected. These transactions like buying shares through an online platform in a bank, they're already covered by the existing tax regime. And so this bill will not in any way add additional taxes to what are already being paid by the Honorable Daza.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for putting that on the record. And I think that's very good for all of us, because we don't want to put additional financial tax burden on many of these online transactions that's helping the economy. My last question, and again, I appreciate the sponsors' responses. We now have a thrust for the LGUs, for the national government to streamline processes, and we essentially are encouraging one-stop shops. For example, ARTA's job is to consolidate all these requirements that say when you want to put up a new corporation, when you want to get your BIR registration, LGU permits, all of that. Are those government-related transactions affected? Because sometimes they charge fees. So how will this bill affect the government-related online transactions that we are all trying to encourage to basically to comply with the ease of doing business law?
Mr. Speaker, this bill will not affect or will not incur additional charges for the digitalization of our local government units. The primary objective really of this bill, Mr. Speaker, is to make foreign digital services providers that are offering goods and services in our country that are consumable to 12% VAT, because all goods and services produced in our country is subject to 12% VAT. There's a loophole. We need to amend our laws so that we can catch this foreign direct digital service providers to pay VAT on the services rendered in our country. So to the question of the digitalization and what we're doing now in our government, encouraging LGUs to digitalize, this bill will not affect that, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to my distinguished colleague, the Honorable Vergara. It's a difficult bill, and I appreciate your responses to my queries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Daza. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Raul Manuel of Kabataan Party List for his interpellation.
The representative of the Kabataan Party List is recognized.
Magandang hapon, Mr. Speaker. I share the sentiments nung naunang tatlong nag-interpellate tungkol sa bill na ito. Now, my questions will revolve around the direct impacts of this bill, which seeks to impose digital taxes on foreign digital service providers, lalo na sa mga kabataan at sa ating educational community. While we note na merong provision dun sa bill natin na naglalagay ng exemption sa ating educational services, pero nakikita ng representasyon na ito na meron pa rin itong mga pagkukulang. Halimbawa, exempted mula sa digital tax ang educational services, including online courses and webinars, rendered by private educational institutions. Ibig sabihin, kapag ang educational service ay ino-offer ng isang private school o isang paaralan dito sa Pilipinas, ito ay ma-exempt sa digital tax. Exempted din ang educational services, kabilang yung sale of online subscription-based services to educational institutions. Ibig sabihin, kung merong isang serbisyo na bibilhin ng isang paaralan for large-scale use sa kanyang institution, exempted din ito. Now, with this provision, makikita natin, Mr. Speaker, na yung mga serbisyo na i-avail ng individual students and teachers ay hindi exempted. Halimbawa, kung ang paaralan ay hindi nagko-commit sa isang set of software o isang learning or isang LMS, no, na siyang common ngayon habang meron tayong distance learning, LMS meaning yung mga learning management software, pwede itong mapatawan ng digital tax. Kaya halimbawa, for Microsoft Office 2021, I'd like to relay this sa ating Madam Sponsor. Halimbawa, kung ipepeg natin ngayon ang cost ng Microsoft Office 2021 sa 5,799 pesos, can we agree with that rate? Madam Chair, kung ipepeg natin for the sake of our discussion ngayong hapon, 5,799, let's peg it at that. Tapos, papatawan siya ng 12%. So, kinompute na rin po natin for expediency. 12% nun ay 695.88. So, kung i-add natin yon from 5,799, siya na ay nasa 6,494.88. Tama ba, Madam Sponsor?
You used, Honorable Speaker, Congressman Manuel, you used 12% VAT?
Yes.
Yes, your figures are right.
Okay. Now, for another example, Mr. Speaker, kung merong isang estudyante na para ma-secure yung kanyang device at ang files niya sa kanyang gadget, ay bibili siya ng original antivirus na nagko-cost ng 3,000 pesos if ipepeg natin dyan. At 12% nun ay 360 pesos. So, ang magiging bagong cost na niya ay 3,360. Can the Madam Sponsor at least agree with that computation?
May I take first the first issue you raised, Honorable Congressman? In the current system we have, Microsoft having an office here in the Philippines is subject to VAT. So all schools, whether private or public, when they purchase their software, is charged 12% VAT.
Okay, so meron na at hindi napapatawan na...
Yes. I mean, kahit walang batas na ito, nagbabayad na po sila ng VAT.
Okay, that is noteworthy, Mr. Speaker. Sige. With that, how about Canva? Meron bang opisina dito, yung Canva sa Pilipinas, Mr. Speaker?
Wala pa po, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. So dahil wala pa, ibig sabihin kung magkano yung rates ngayon sa pag-avail ng Canva, ito ay papatawan ng 12%. So para din sa impormasyon ng ating mga kapwa mambabatas, yung Canva ay isang actually online service na pwedeng ma-avail through the internet para makagawa ng mga PowerPoint presentations, certificates, letters, format ng mga resume at iba pa. Kaya popular ito among our students. So, pwede itong magamit ng libre, pero para ma-avail yung full range of services, pwedeng magbayad for Canva Premium, na ang monthly rate ay nasa 299 pesos. Now, 12% nun ay 35.88. Kung i-add natin, 334.88 pesos, Mr. Speaker. Can Madam Sponsor agree with that?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, your computation is right.
Okay.
Manuel.
How about Google? May opisina din ba sa Pilipinas yung Google, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Google has an office here.
Okay. So now, given yung ganong mga examples, meron pa ring makakalusot na mga ina-avail ng ating mga estudyante, ng ating mga guro at iba pa, dun sa exemptions na nilatag na ng current na version ng ating bill. No? How about Apple, Mr. Speaker? Meron na rin ba itong opisina?
Wala pa po, Mr. Speaker. Apple has no physical presence in the Philippines.
Okay. Now, if I were to check, Mr. Speaker, yung ating definition ng digital services, nakalagay dito na kasama sa digital services yung online licensing of software, pati updates. So, ibig sabihin, posible na lahat tayo na gumagamit ng iPhones at ibig sabihin ay meron din yung iOS o yung operating software para gumana yung ating iPhones. Lahat ng mga kababayan natin na bumibili ng iPhones ay pwedeng tumaas din yung presyo nun given na mag-entail ito ng regular updates para sa operating software at pag-upgrade din mismo ng software na iyon, Mr. Speaker.
That is correct, Mr. Speaker.
Ayan. Now, given what I have mentioned, Mr. Speaker, at dahil tayo rin ay sumasang-ayon dun sa mga punto na nabanggit na kanina, ibig sabihin, yung ganitong mga transactions, devices, and services availed by our students can have increases in prices. Kaya tayo din nangangamba dun sa magiging spillover effect nitong batas, no? Lalo na sa ating mga kababayan na nag-aaral at dumaan din sa hirap lalo na nung napuwersa na mag-transition tayo sa distance learning. At habang nandyan pa rin yung forms ng online learning or blended learning na gagamit ng ganitong mga digital services, ang pangamba natin baka hindi pa natin na-exhaust lahat ng mga pwede pang serbisyo na tumaas din yung kanilang costs should this bill pass into law. And if we are to consider the 19 billion pesos na mas ito yung pinepeg nating collection, no? Kung 50% ay 9.55 billion, 100% compliance would translate to 19 billion collection. In the grand scheme of things, Mr. Speaker, tingin natin ay marami pa tayong pwedeng i-exhaust na mga pamamaraan if we are to generate higher revenues for social services para sa ating bansa. So yun na lamang, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Kong Manuel. We'd just like to point out that, yes, we recognize your concerns and your issues. However, most of the updates for our phones, they're free, so not subject to VAT. And as requested by Congressman Arlene Rosas during the committee meetings, educational services, books, courses, webinars that are related, whether to private or state universities, will be exempt from this VAT. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Congressman Manuel.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend consideration of House Bill 4122 covered by Committee Report number 25.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider House Bill number 4339 under Committee Report number 27. And may I request the Secretary General to read the title of the bill.
The Secretary General is requested to read the title of the measure.
House Bill Number 4339, an act amending Section 6, 22, 24, 25, 27, 28, 32, 34, 37, 38, 39, 42, 51, 52, 54, 56, 57, 73, 108, 109, 112, 121, 122, 123, 127, 149, 174, 176, 179, 181, 182, 183, 184, 185, 186, 187, 190, 195, 198, 199, 204, 222, 237, 237-8, 255, 256, 257, 258, 261, 263, 264, 266, 275, inserting new section 270-A and repealing sections 175, 177, 178, 180, 188, 192, and 193, all under Republic Act Number 8424, otherwise known as the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion's approved. Please proceed, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend consideration of House Bill number 4339.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion's approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up the additional reference of business.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion's approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the additional reference of business. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Additional reference of business, committee report number 33 on House Bill number 4673.
To the Committee on Rules, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend session.
Session is suspended.
Sige, sige ha, pare.
Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we withdraw the election of Representative Bienvenido M. Abante Jr. as Deputy Majority Leader made on August the 3rd, 2022.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, I move that we elect the following members to the various committees. To the Committee on Human Rights, as Chairperson, Abante Bienvenido Jr. M. To the Committee on Population and Family Relations, as Chairperson, D. Ian Paul L. To the Special Committee on Globalization and WTO, as Chairperson, Lara Joseph Jojo L. Vice De Los Santos Alfred C. To the Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources as Vice Chairperson, Tiangco Tobias Reynold M. To the Committee on Ecology as Vice Chairperson, Fernandez Dan S. To the Committee on Energy, as member, Malapitan Oscar G. To the Committee on Games and Amusements, as member, Malapitan Oscar G. To the Committee on Legislative Franchises, as member, Co Elizalde S. To the Committee on Poverty Alleviation, as Vice Chairperson, Bondok Ana York P. The Committee on Public Order and Safety, as member, Ramar Eduardo R. To the Committee on Tourism, as member, Ang James Jojo Jr. To the Committee on Welfare of Children, as member, Co Elizalde S. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no business left for the day, I move that we adjourn session until tomorrow, Tuesday, the 13th of September, 2 p.m. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
There being no objection, motion is approved. Session is adjourned until 2 p.m. September 13.
Anong surge? Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.